You are born to the sound of alarms. Not the soft chime of a hospital ward or a midwife's gentle call, an angry metallic scream that rattles through bulkheads and the bones of the dying ship where your first breath tastes like recycled air and rust. The world meets you in emergency red, a strobe that paints everything in pulses, shadow, light, like some unseen hand is flicking the galaxy on and off to decide whether you deserve to exist. You do not cry, you listen. Somewhere beneath the claxons, a deeper rhythm thrums through the hull, a mechanical breathing, cold and steady, as if the ship itself is alive and tired of pretending. The sound settles in your memory, like a seed buried under ash. Years later, you will hear it again and think, I have always known this. The ship, an ancient colony freighter long ago repurposed into a floating slum, clings to orbit above a world nobody claims. Below lies a scar, a planet of salt flats and fractured canyons where the wind scours the land clean of names. Above, a junk ring swirls, broken frigates, cracked habitats, scaffolds webbed together by desperate hands and cable splicers who build lives from what war leaves behind. Somewhere in those narrow corridors, beneath dripping pipes and blue flicker lamps, you are passed from one pair of calloused hands to another, swaddled in a blanket that smells of coolant and skin. Quiet, a woman's voice whispers. Hold your breath, little one. She is not your mother. Not exactly. People here belong to each other the way the ship belongs to gravity, more an agreement than a bond. She's a scavenger, a solderer of cracked boards, a woman who swears at machines and wraps the knuckles of children who steal from her bench. Her hair is braided with wire. Her palms are scored with burns that look like maps of rivers in drought. She names you only because the ship's registrar demands a due. Trouble, she says, finding you on the catwalk above the reactor conduits, your toes curled over the grating. You think the ship loves you? That's not love, little one. That's appetite. You learn the rhythms of the junk ring the way a farmer knows the seasons. Barges drift in on ion stutter, belching fumes. Guild inspectors count bolts with greedy eyes. Salvagers sleep under inverted hull plates, dreaming of shipyards and planets with real sky. News arrives in the mouths of drunks and couriers. Empires fall and rise and rename themselves while you trade a coil of copper for a bowl of broth. Holofeeds flicker with iron-voiced men promising order. Somewhere far away, temples burn. Some nights, voices argue through walls with the volume turned down. They'll quarantine the ring. They don't have enough ships left to quarantine a rumor. There are inquisitors now. Don't say that word on my deck. You do not see a Jedi. You learn their shape from stories, from the way people lean in when they say they were like light, and from the way their voices dim to cinders afterward. As you grow, the ship grows smaller. Corridors shrink into habit. You begin to venture to the exterior scaffolds where the horizon is a roulette of scrap and frost. Out there, the ring glitters in hard sunlight, a jeweled chain of dead war between stars. You walk along rails with a tether clipped to your belt and your heart clipped to a courage you pretend to own. It is there you first learn the true scale of silence, the kind you felt at your birth, the kind that isn't emptiness at all but pressure building between worlds. You make friends and lose them. A boy with a talent for scrounging seals dies when a pressure door misreads his heat signature. A girl with grease-blackened fingers and a laugh like broken glass signs on with a smuggler crew and never docks again. The woman who was not your Mose. There goes missing for 3 days after a decompression accident. She returns with a limp, a scar, and a new superstition about the different ways air can leave a room. One day, you pry open a cryopod for scrap. It sighs like a grave unsealing. Inside is nothing but a whisper etched into frost on the inner viewport. We will return. You pretend the chill on your skin is from the air, and not from the idea that someone once lay inside this box, dreaming of a home they would never see again. The Force, though you do not know to call it that, saturates your youth. It is the feeling that the wind on the external trusses knows your name. It is the way the ship's power cycle syncs with your breath when you calm yourself on a trembling rail. It is the strange, unwelcome knowledge that sometimes you are the one listening, and sometimes something else is listening back. It does not speak in words, not then. It speaks in intuitions, in choices you do not make so much as discover already made. Once, a cable sheath tears and a spray of bright sparks spits toward your face. You raise your hand. The sparks hang in the air all at once, a frozen constellation. They drift back into the cable like snow melting in reverse, and the cable seals itself with a sound like a hiss and a sigh layered together. You tell no one. It feels like stealing. You could live like that forever, unnoticed, half-starved, unclaimed by any flag except the patched-together banner of a place that has never been a place. A people who drift and survive and tell each other stories about suns that do not flicker guilty blue. You could, but life is not shaped to your desires. It is shaped like a door you have not opened yet, and like a shadow you have not stepped into. He enters your life the way all great storms do, first as a change in pressure against your skin, then as a distance inside your ears where every other sue, and retreats, and finally as a presence that obliterates names. It is not a person at first. It is a rumor swerving between hulls faster than a courier skiff, an imperial task force seen passing through the outer lanes, an obsidian shuttle with wings like knives, a delegation from the cold center of order. The woman who raised you pretends not to care as she speaks to the registrar about rations, but you see the way her eyes flick to the viewport without moving her head. Stay in the lower decks, she tells you. Visitors like this bring gravity with them, and gravity pulls at the small things. You nod, but gravity has always been a suggestion to you. You go to the scaffolds anyway. You go because something in you thrums like a cable about to sing. The arrival is a lesson in choreographed fear. 6 gunmetal gray patrol craft hook into the ring's perimeter and push outward to hold a silence around it, as if sound is a crime now. Searchlights rake along plated corridors like fingers parting hair. The obsidian shuttle glides into docking with a grace wholly at odds with everything you have learned about machines. It is too quiet, too patient, as if it is not flying so much as being drawn by a promise only it can hear. When the ramp lowers, your breath stops. You see boots first, mirror black, reflections warping in the curve of their polish. Then a hem of cloak, heavy and contemptuous of the air it displaces. The figure that descends is taller than you imagined a person could be, and still be called a person. The helmet is a skull from a culture that never knew flesh, wide, implacable, lenses too dark to catch light. And from within that war mask, the sound you recognize from your first minute of life rolls into you, mechanical, metronomic, a breathing not attached to a body, but to a decision. You cannot hear the ship's alarms over it, because the ship itself is listening. He does not hurry. People like you scuttle aside without being told. The ring's guildmaster meets him with a practiced smile and a scaled-down bow preached to small gods. Lord, the guildmaster begins, voice breaking like thin ice. Where? The figure says, and even filtered through the machine that breathes for him. The word is not a question, but a verdict that merely waits to be fulfilled. Is the one who moved your power from dead to living during decompression 6 cycles ago. Your chest turns to air. You think of sparks stopping mid-flight. You think of doors unlocked by fear. You think of the way you have been carefully small your entire life. You become smaller. But the force, the thing inside you that hears the shape of currents, does not shrink. It expands until your skin can barely hold it. The rails hum beneath your feet as if warming their hands above a brazier. The hair at the nape of your neck lifts, as if wind has found you in a place where wind is not supposed to be. Someone speaks. You cannot tell who. My lord, we have had no incidents. There are records, the machine voice says, and the way he says it, records is not paper and data, but prophecy. He turns his head, and for one obscene heartbeat those lenses catch you. They do not reflect your face. They reflect only the inevitability of your steps bringing you closer to him. Don't move, the woman's voice whispers, far away behind you, even though she is near enough that you could reach back and touch the shadow of her sleeve. Hold your breath, little one. Hold it. You have been holding your breath since you were born. You let it go. The exhale is a door opening. You feel it as a click at the base of your skull, a hinge you did not know you carried. The hum of the rails becomes a note. The note threads through your skin, through the scaffolds, through the ring, through the vacuum between things, as if the galaxy is an instrument and you are the hand that refuses to stop it from playing. For a moment you are not hungry, not small, not nobody. You are a wicked. K and the universe is a slow match. The figure in black stops. The breathing stops. Everything stops. In that pause exists all the lives you might have lived. Smuggler, salvager, union cook, the old woman on the card table corner who cheats at Pazak and laughs like rust. They pass before you like fish behind glass. You will never touch them. Ah, he says, as if disappointed to confirm a suspicion. There you are. Obedient hands seize your arms. Guild security, thick fingers, and apology. In that pause exists all the lives you might have lived. Smuggler, salvager, union cook, the old woman on the card table corner who cheats at Pazak and laughs like rust. They pass before you like fish behind glass. You will never touch them. Ah, he says, as if disappointed to confirm a suspicion. There you are. Obedient hands seize your arms. Guild security, thick fingers and apologies woven under their breath. You do not struggle. The Force, now you are permitted to name it, does not urge you to fight. It urges you to listen to the inevitability in those steps as the black silhouette comes closer, cloak trailing the scent of cold metal and spent lightning. Look at me, he says, and the respirator adds weight to the command that words alone could not bear. Do not lie. You raise your eyes. In this close distance you feel the tide of him. You feel the void where warmth should be. You feel the shadow that is not a shadow at all, but a wound that learned how to walk. You feel, too, something stranger. The faintest echo of a boy standing in a desert under twin suns, with hope so loud it was practically a scream. It is gone before you can pin it to meaning. The rest remains. The iron, the hurt, the intention that has outlived love. You will come with me, he says. The woman who raised you makes a sound you have never heard, a scrap caught in a fan, a denial ripped in half. His masked head turns in her direction without interest. She goes quiet. Everyone does. The ring holds its breath, finally obeying the instruction you could never keep. And you, child of alarms and broken light, you do not speak, you do not nod, you only know. Every path you have ever taken on the ship led here, every rail crossed, every door listened open, every spark called back to the cable. The universe has the manners to at least pretend you have a say, but both of you understand this is theater staged for compassion's sake. As you step forward, the rails sing again, not loudly, enough for you to hear and remember that they sang for you first. The figure turns, and the ramp rises like a closing eye. The ring grows small. The junk, the hungry orbit, the woman with a braid threaded in wire, all of it recedes as if pulled across a vast table by an invisible hand. You think of the whisper in the cryopod, "We will return." You think, "I don't return. I am taken." The shuttle's engines bloom, the stars tilt. As the blackness of space swallows the ring, a second presence, cold and patient beyond even the one at your shoulder, brushes the edges of your mind like a surveyor measuring the span of a ruin. At last, it murmurs, from nowhere and everywhere at once, "I sense you." You do not know enough to be afraid of that voice yet, not properly. You only know the pressure change you felt at your birth has become a weather front rolling across your life. You close your eyes as the shuttle jumps, and somewhere out in the dark, something older than empires and quieter than death turns its head toward you. Is woven under their breath. You do not struggle. The Force, now you are permitted to name it, does not urge you to fight. It urges you to listen to the inevitability in those steps as the black silhouette comes closer, cloak trailing the scent of cold metal and spent lightning. Look at me, he says, and the respirator adds weight to the command that words alone could not bear. Do not lie. You ratini. Eyes your eyes. In this close distance, you feel the tide of him. You feel the void where warmth should be. You feel the shadow that is not a shadow at all, but a wound that learned how to walk. You feel. You do not awaken in freedom. You awaken in chains. They are not forged of iron. Those would have been merciful. Instead, the shackles are unseen, buried inside your body, etched into your nerves, woven into your future. Slavery is not always marked by collars or cuffs. Sometimes it is marked by silence, by the way others look past you as though you are not even there. Sometimes it is marked by the way your choices are taken from you before you ever know you have them. The shuttle that carried you away from the junk ring does not smell of rust or recycled air. It smells of sterilized metal and cold machinery. The hum beneath your feet is smoother than the rattle of patched drives you grew up with. This ship is no scavenger's patchwork. It is a predator, sleek and obedient. The walls are clean, almost sterile, and in their reflection you see yourself for the first time away from the ring, a thin figure, wide-eyed, pale from years without sunlight, a child carved by hunger and sharpened by survival. Across from you, the black figure sits in silence. His mechanical breathing fills the cabin, steady, unbroken. Each inhale, each exhale, a reminder that you are trapped in the gravity of something far larger than yourself. You dare not speak. You dare not move. His presence is suffocating, yet in it you feel tethered, like a ship caught in the pull of a star it cannot escape. Your memories of the ring seem almost like dreams now. The woman who raised you, the scaffolds under your feet, the cryopod whispering, "We will return." Already they fade like the echoes of a world you were never meant to keep. You land not on a planet but on a fortress, an obsidian spire rising from the volcanic plains of a place that reeks of ash and sulfur. The air burns your lungs when you first breathe it, and the sky glows red as if the planet itself is on fire. Black stone towers pierce the clouds. That single gesture is worth more than food, more than rest, more than life. You begin to crave it. It is not affection. It is not kindness. It is recognition, the acknowledgement that you are not nothing, that you exist, that you are seen. But with that recognition comes a chain. You are sent on missions, at first small, retrieving artifacts, silencing spies, hunting fugitives, always under the watchful eye of handlers, always in the shadow of Vader's will. You kill your first target in a damp alley on Coruscant, a smuggler who sold information to a senator. He pleads for his life. You end it with a blade because that is what you have been told to do. His blood steams on the Duracrete, and you feel the Force tremble inside you, an ugly, thrilling pulse that makes your heart race and your stomach twist. When you return, Vader does not praise you. He does not scold you. He only says, "You are useful." The words are chains, but they are chains you accept. The days blur into one another, training, missions, silence, obedience. The fortress is your cage, and the galaxy is your hunting ground. You no longer remember the taste of laughter or the sound of a child's voice. You are not a child anymore. You are an instrument. And yet, when you sleep, the dreams return. You dream of sparks frozen in the air. You dream of doors opening on their own. You dream of the voice in the dark, the one that spoke as the shuttle carried you away. At last, I sense you. The trainers never speak of such things. Vader never speaks of it either, but you feel it. Something beyond him, beyond even the Empire. Something waiting, watching, pulling at you like a tide. You wake in sweat, the heat of Mustafar clinging to your skin, your fists clenched tight as if holding on to something you cannot name. You cannot tell if the chains that bind you are meant to protect the galaxy from you, or protect you from yourself. And deep inside you begin to wonder, if survival means chains, what will it mean to finally break them? Ash falls like slow snow, carrying the smell of burned prayers. It drifts in ragged veils across the valley, sifting through rib cages of collapsed spires and threading itself into the seams of your gloves. Every step you take leaves a crescent print that fills as soon as your boot lifts, as if the world is trying to erase you as quickly as it records your passage. Wind skates low and mean over the blackened ground, whispering along charred stone like the last voice of a language nobody speaks anymore. You have come to a dead place to find a living secret. The shuttle left you at the fringe of the ruins before sunrise, when the sky was a bowl of cold iron. Now the light is a pallid, sickly thing that cannot claw its way through the soot. You move through what used to be a courtyard, your breath steady, your senses open. Statues once stood here, guardians with patient faces and robes that suggested movement even when carved from stone. What remains of them are stumps and ankles, footprints preserved in a mosaic now melted into glass. It crunches under you like sugar. No troopers, no handlers, no instructors barking times and corrections. He sent you alone. Find the source, Vader's voice had said, calm as a mausoleum. If the rumor wears a blade of light, extinguish it. If it is a lie, silence it. There were no further instructions. There rarely are. He trains you with attention the way the desert trains a traveler, with absence and consequence. If you are not enough, the world will tell you. If you are too much, the world will break. You let your gloved hand hover over a cracked lintel. Heat ghosts off it, not from the sun. This ruin holds the memory of older fires. The Force pools in hollows here, stained a shade you do not have words for, the way smoke stains lungs. If you listen too closely, the ash hums in your bones. You found hints of this place in a commerce node. Ryan scavengers too deliberate for animal. Your own heartbeat slows without your command. You do not reach for your weapon. You turn, and the figure is exactly what rumor would deny. Not a radiant warrior carved of legend, not a hermit turned feral, not a martyr eager to die. A human, late middle years, skin smoke-browned and creased by grief, hair cropped to the scalp. The robe is patched, the edges salt with ash, no lightsaber in hand. The weapon, if there is one, sleeps somewhere under those folds, or somewhere you cannot see. Their eyes are the most dangerous thing about them. Not hard, not pleading, understanding. You don't know me, you say. Your voice does not shake. I know the shape of your breath, the figure says, and the words are gentle without softness. I heard you from the first time you put your foot on the first stone. You listened to the world. That is how the world learned to listen to you. Anger presents itself for your choosing. You do not choose it yet. You are hiding, you say. You know why I'm here. A small tilt of the head, a small smile that is not really a smile. There is nowhere else to go. The ashes lift, spiral, settle. You taste metal on the air. Memory stirs. Vader's voice behind your ear in a training chamber hot as Mustafar's skin. Mercy is a blade whose handle cuts the hand that grasps it. You have learned the anatomy of hesitation. You know where it lives in the body and how to cut it out. The figure sees the lesson written in your posture. They took you young, they say, not as insult, not as pity, as diagnosis. You live with a shadow because someone told you that shadow was safer than the light. You touch nothing. You let the words pass over you without adhesion. You memorize distances and angles, the length between you, the probable swing arc if they ignite a blade, the locations of the fallen columns you could pull. With a thought to break a charge or a neck, you could act now and end this. It would be swift, efficient. Instead you ask, what is this place? Once, it was a school. Now, a warning. The warning is to hide? The warning is to remember what happens when you forget what you're for. Something in the way they say you're for irritates your skin. You hear the other voice instead, the one from the shuttle as your life turned black under you. At last I sense you. It has hunted you through sleep, through drills, through meals eaten standing with your back to the wall. It approves when you hurt. It is patient when you heal. It enjoys your anger, like wine. Do you think you know what I'm for? You ask. No, the figure says. But I can feel what you are not. You have played this conversation in your head on the way down from orbit. The speech you would deliver, precise as a blade, about order and purpose. The one you thought would keep your hands clean while your heart stayed cold. They do not give you time to use it. They step aside and gesture toward the shattered altar. Will you walk with me, or will you try to slaughter me here in what's left of a prayer? You could. You could spill the blade into your hand and write the end of this meeting before the air understands it began. But there is something in the request, the refusal to be prey, the refusal to make you a predator, that hooks under a shield you didn't know you wore. You walk. Your boots stir eddies of gray. The figure's steps make almost no sound. They speak without looking at you. When I was younger, we learned to name the voices, the living force, the unifying force, the 1,000 languages of things. You've heard them all. You just weren't taught to call them by the right names. Names are chains, you say. Names are anchors, they answer. Chains bind, anchors hold. You stop at the altar. The stone is cracked through the center, a wound that closed badly. In the split, something glints, a bead of cooled glass, a melted jewel. The figure places their palm on the break, as if offering apology to it. I know who waits for your report, they say. I know how he answers disobedience. I knew him before he changed his name. That pulls your gaze. You knew. You cannot finish the word. It is too close to treason, not in the Empire's sense. The Empire's treason is easy, stamped and filed, but the treason of allowing your mind to hold the possibility. The figure nods once. He was a boy who loved too much and thought love could be bargained with. He lost the bargain. Now he thinks power will fix what love broke. Your body remembers the old wreck where you were born, the way the alarms made breath a hammer inside your chest. You're lying, you say. But the denial sounds like a line read poorly from someone else's script. Am I? They study your face without aggression, without hunger. What has he taught you about yourself beyond the ways you are useful? Usefulness tastes like iron on your tongue. You swallow and it does not go down. Your hand lifts before you tell it to. Ash coalesces in the air, swirling, a black river suspended, and then forms a perfect sphere that hovers between you and the figure, weightless, waiting. It is a simple thing. It is a confession. See, they say quietly, you know how to listen. Nobody ever taught you to hear Yai. Ourself. You drop the ash. It sighs apart. What do you want from me? To live, they say. to choose, to learn what you are when the voice that rides your shoulders is not whispering in your ear. There is the hook, baited and shining in the dirty light, the part of you that still returns to the smell of wire-braided hair, and the laugh like rust leans toward it as if to warmth. But the other presence in you, the cold surveyor measuring the ruin of your soul, tightens. The air sharpens. A pressure folds into your lungs, familiar and absolute. He is listening. No, not here in the ash with his body. Here with the long reach of intention. Here with the leash you pretend you can't feel when you sleep. Your ear prickles. Your comm unit is quiet, but your bones are not. Somewhere above the cloud line, a black wedge turns its face toward the sun. You step back. The figure does not follow. Their hand lowers from the altar. The quiet between you is a chord that could break into music or into steel. This cannot end with both of us walking away, you say. You know that. I know. They close their eyes for the length of a heartbeat, and when they open them, there is resolve there that looks like mercy because it refused to become rage. If you kill me, may the part of you that is still a child forgive you someday. If you spare me, may the part that is a weapon forgive you sooner. They lift their hand. The air around their sleeve stirs. You raise yours. The ash answers both of you, lifting in twin spirals, drawing the sigils of choice in a language older than empires. The lightsaber ignites not with the scream you were taught to love, but with a steady bloom, green as new leaves against cinders. Yours answers in red because that is the only color you have ever been allowed. The valley becomes a painting made of lines, bright and bright and bright, the signature of two will. Is writing at once over a shared page. They are not stronger than you. They are not faster, but they have practiced a different kind of courage, yielding where you would harden, listening where you would. They redirect your angers back at you, and they do not flinch when your blade cuts a lock of their hair and turns it to smoke. You drive. They endure. You crash. They step aside. You snarl without sound. They breathe. Then they make a mistake. Their heel slides on glass slick ash, the smallest slip, a human error. You are there before gravity remembers its job. Your blade kisses their wrist. Their saber flies, a green star, tumbling end over end, hissing out in the dirt. Your other hand lifts, palm open, and the fallen column to your left trembles, eager to obey. You could crush their chest like a dry leaf. You freeze, not from mercy, from the fact that someone has placed a hand on your shoulder from a very great distance. You know the weight of that hand. It spans from childhood to now. It says without words, "We are watching. Show us who you belong to." The Jedi, it is a relief to call them what they are, sees it, sees the flinch, the calculated pause, and in that beat uses the only weapon left, their voice. You were born to alarms, they say, breathing hard. But not all alarms mean danger. Some mean wake up. You pull the column. It tears free with a scream. They leap, not away, not toward you, but into the crack in the altar, falling into the dark undercroft of the temple. Stone slams down. The column you ripped from its bed misses them by the width of a breath and crushes the altar's rim to powder. Ash billows up like a living thing and smothers the world gray. Your comm hisses, a frequency you do not ever ignore. Report, Vader's voice says, unhurried iron. Status. Your throat opens. Your mouth shapes words taught to you like catechism. Target. You begin. Something shifts under your boots. The flagstones tilt. A hollow exhales below, as if lungs the size of caverns decided to remind you they still exist. You realize all at once that you stand on a skin stretched over a void. A new sound joins the wind. Ion engines, low and growing. Not one shuttle, many. And somewhere beneath your feet, in the belly of the temple, a light blade hisses alive again, its glow seeping up through cracks like dawn under a door. You raise your saber, blinded by ash, breath quick without panic. Above you, the Empire arriving. Below you, the survivor you failed to end. Within you, the hand on your shoulder waiting to feel which way you lean. You click the comm live, ash drifting into your mouth like snowfall. My lord, you say, choosing each word as if it might explode. The temple isn't empty. The stone shudders. Then it gives way. The fall is endless. Stone tears past your hands as you plummet through the altar's wound, ash chasing you like a black tide. You crash into darkness, the breath driven from your lungs, the force the only thing keeping your bones from splintering on stone. For a heartbeat you lie there, gasping, dust thick in your mouth, before the hiss of a lightsaber ignites again below, green fire illuminating the ruin like a wound reopening. You scramble to your feet, your crimson blade answering with a shriek of energy. The cavern around you is vast, ribbed with stone like the inside of some ancient beast. Ash streams downward in thin curtains, and the glow of your sabers paints the walls in dueling colors, emerald and blood. The Jedi is already upon you. Their strike comes not as a killing blow but as a test, a sweep meant to measure your fear. You meet it with raw power, sparks showering across the cavern floor as your blades lock. The pressure surges through your arms, into your chest, into your heart. And for a moment you see it, the possibility of breaking them here, ending their line, carrying Vader's shadow further across the galaxy. But in the Jedi's eyes, you do not see hatred, you see grief. That grief unsettles you more than their blade. Child, they say, straining against your fury, you don't have to be this. The words ignite your rage like oil on flame. You shove forward, driving them back, the cavern shaking with each strike. Your movements are sharp, merciless. Vader's teachings etched into your very muscles. Attack without hesitation, strike without mercy. To pause is weakness, to hesitate is death. Yet even as you fight, the whispers return. Not the Jedi's voice, not Vader's. The deeper one. The one that has stalked your dreams. Yes, let it burn, let it consume. The Jedi senses it too. They falter for the briefest moment, their gaze shifting not at you, but through. Vader has come. The Jedi seizes the distraction, rolling away, their green blade flashing as they retreat deeper into the temple's shadows. You lunge to pursue, but then he is there, towering, merciless, the red glow of his saber cutting through smoke and dust. Enough, Vader commands, his voice a storm of steel. You freeze, chest heaving, blade trembling in your grip. The prey runs, you say, desperation leaking into your tone. I can end them. You will not, he replies, and the air bends around the weight of his will. The Jedi vanishes into the depths, swallowed by darkness and fire, and you are left kneeling in the wreckage. Vader looms over you, his respirator drowning out the screams of the crumbling temple. You falter, he says. You bow your head, shame burning hotter than the ash raining down. You hesitate when faced with weakness. You reach for mercy where there must be none. His saber extinguishes with a hiss, but the silence is worse than the blade. He leans close, his shadow devouring yours. If you are to serve me, you must be remade. Strong hands seize you, troopers dragging you upward, your protests swallowed by their grip. You are taken from the cavern, up through the wreckage, into the shuttle's belly. The temple burns behind you, green light flickering one last time before being crushed by the firestorm. The fortress on Mustafar awaits you again, but this time you are not brought to the training pits. You are led deeper into the bowels where the walls drip with heat and the very air tastes of smoke and blood. Torches burn low, their light unable to reach the ceiling. Chains hang from the walls, not for prisoners, but for initiates. This is not training, this is ritual. You are bound. You are broken. You are cut open, not with blades but with the force itself. Your fears pulled from you, your screams swallowed by stone, your will drowned beneath waves of shadow. Hours or days, time means nothing here, only pain. Pain until you are no longer certain if you are flesh or spirit, child or weapon. And through it all, he is there. Vader's voice is the liturgy, his breathing the rhythm, his shadow the baptismal water into which you are drowned again and again until you are certain you will never surface. Finally, when the fire in your veins burns itself into embers, he releases you. You collapse, trembling, your chains unbound. And as you lift your eyes to him, you see not a master, not a tyrant, not even a man, but a destiny that has swallowed you whole. You are no longer child, he declares. You are apprentice. And as the word echoes through the cavern, the shadow inside you stirs. It has been waiting. They tell you a name is a tether. They do not tell you a name can be a blade. You wake to the color of cooled iron. No daylight, only the slow pulse of furnace hearts far below, throbbing through the obsidian keep like an old wound that refuses to heal. The floor is warm beneath your palms. Your throat tastes of smoke and something like copper. Above you, the vault is black enough to feel like weight. You are alone until you are not. The first thing that enters the chamber is not a person, but a sound, the measured rasp of the respirator you have learned the length of by heart. Inhale, exhale, a pendulum that sets your fear to time. Then the silhouette resolves from shadow, cloak dragging the heat, helm swallowing the dim glow, and your body remembers the posture of kneeling before your mind catches up. Rise, he says. You do. Your muscles tremble and obey. Around the circumference of the chamber stand machines that resemble altars and ovens in equal measure. Forges with mouths of dull orange, tables ribbed with clamps, a frame of magnetics that hums like a hive. Runes have been cut into the floor, lines that fork and braid into a labyrinth whose only exit leads back to the center, where you stand. It is quiet, with the quiet of waiting steel. This place, he says, is where emptiness is given shape. The words fit too neatly around your life for comfort. You hold still and let them cut you. He gestures, and a droid trundles from a shadow with a velvet-lined casket secured to its tray. When it opens under his hand, the light inside is so clean it hurts. A crystal lies in its niche, clear as a tear, humming faintly in a frequency too pure to be entirely of this place. The last of the temple's harvest, he says, not pride, not pity, inventory. Take it. You reach with a hand that has killed and a hand that has mended cables into second chances. The crystal is cool, smut, fuller than the first knuckle of your thumb, and as you lift it, something inside your chest shivers awake, a tide answering the pull of a moon. Do you know what this is? He asks. A kyber, you say. A mirror, he corrects. Hold it until it sees you. You close your fingers. The hum intensifies. Not louder, closer. For a heartbeat, the purity in it makes you feel dishonest. The crystal shows you to yourself. A child born to alarms, a weapon forged in heat, a heartbeat trying not to flinch beneath instruction. The mirror offers you back exactly what you are. Now, he says, the word an iron rung in a ladder that leads down. Teach it your truth. The force gathers where your shame has lived. You hold every hunger, every strike endured, every breath taken under his shadow. You recall the green blade in the ash and the mercy you almost chose. Rage shows up late, but when it arrives it spills out of your bones like a tide that is chewed through its dam. The crystal's light fractures. A hairline seam crawls through it, red waking inside clear, a thread of blood through water. The sound it makes is not sound, and yet you hear it, a cry of glass remembering sand, of hope remembering that it once failed. The glow deepens to the color that has been your only permission. It is ugly and honest and yours. When you unclench your hand, your palm bears a small burn in the shape of a star. The crystal's red is steady as a pulse. Good, he says, and it is the first time that word from that voice feels like a weight you are able to lift. Droids move in. Parts assemble themselves in the air under his guidance and your will, a grip that fits your hand like a scar that finally learned to stop hurting, a shroud vented for heat like the gills of a sleeping predator, a switch you can find in the dark. You do not build ornament, you build purpose. When the emitter cup swallows your newly bled heart, the chamber smells faintly of hot metal and rain over dust. Again, he says. You blink. He does not. You forge a second hilt, shorter, lighter, magnet coupled to the first. He watches without comment until both rest on the tray, like a pair of sleeping animals. The breath in the mask is the only metronome you obey. When he turns, the droids retreat. He studies you for a long time, and you fight not to learn yourself by guessing what he sees. A name, he says finally, and the word hangs in the heat like a spark looking for tinder, is what you answer when the galaxy calls you to account. He crosses the runes toward you. You keep your eyes where they belong, on the angle where cloak meets floor, on the edges of a shadow that swallows other shadows whole. Your first life is ash, he says. Your second is iron. You will have no third. From this breath onward, you belong to the night between stars. You will cut without being seen. You will speak without being heard. When the Empire points at absence and gives it shape, it will be you. He stops close enough that the heat of the forges competes with the cold that has learned your bones. The black mask inclines, and though it reflects nothing, you understand you are reflected anyway. You will be called Umbra. The syllables land like a seal pressed into wax. Umbra. The deepest part of a shadow where the light cannot find you if it wants to. The place eclipses live. The name fits. The name narrows. The name erases the child who balanced on scaffold rails, listening for cables about to break. You bow your head and taste the truth of it. I am Umbra, a blade that hides inside darkness. A shape even lies must respect. The ritual continues. Armor is brought to you piece by piece. Not a prison, not a shell, a handwriting. Reinforced underlay black as the heat behind an eyelid. Gauntlets with magnetics tuned to your new hilts, boots that eat their own sound, a half mask that admits air and denies faces, voice. Choked to a lower register wet with static. When you strap the harness over your ribs, when the holster catches the weight at your hip, you feel like a sentence finally receiving its verb. Again, he says. You understand. You ignite the new blade. Red hurts the air. You close your eyes. The training chamber drops to black. At once the floor splits. Platforms reconfiguring, channels opening beneath you like mouths. Doors hiss as drones flood the dark with teeth. They come without light, blades with no color, needles without weight, the concept of harm given motion. You are inside the labyrinth you saw cut into the floor, and this time the exit is not back to the center. This time the exit is not dying. You still yourself into the shape of listening. The drone's motors whine at different pitches. The air ahead fattens a fraction of a breath before a blade flies through it. Your own heartbeat flavors the space so that you know what is not you by how it tastes. You move when you have already moved in your mind, cutting where an edge will be, stepping where gravity plans to fail you. The red of your saber is your only witness, and even it looks away when you ask it to. Pain arrives like rain hitting hot stone. A needle finds your shoulder. You do not cry out. Another metal mouth bites your calf through fabric. You roar, but not through your throat, through your will. The drones hit an invisible wall at dead run and fall, snapping limbs like spiders under a boot. You breathe. You spill. You pull the labyrinth's platforms into the shape of your choosing until the room remembers who is making choices. When the lights return, you are standing in the geometry of your own refusal. The drones hang in the air, torn and precise. You are breathing like a hunted thing that has decided to see whether the hunter bleeds. He steps into the brightness, a figure cut from a cautionary tale, and for the first time since he named you, he lifts his blade. You do not think. You are answering. The duel is not like the fight in the ash. The Jedi breathed with you. This man breathes against you. He shows you a future in every stroke and then burns it. He tests not your strength, but your subtraction. How little you can show, how little you can need, how gone you can be while still remaining inevitable. Your body speaks a language his taught it. Your mind learns diagramming on the fly. He drives you to a knee with a strike that does not hit you. Your own blade stops an inch above your face because the idea of his will is there. The respirator's measure is suddenly thunder, your own breath the thin line under it trying not to snap. Again, he says. You rise, you fall, you rise. He knocks the wind out of you without touching you. He gives it back when you are silent. He carves away your flourishes until only function remains. When he finally lowers his saber, your arms are singing in a register you did not know they had, and your blood is bright in your mouth. Umbra, he says, and the name fits differently now, tight where it had been loose. You will hold when others break. You will break what others hold. You wait for praise. He offers the next thing instead. Punishment disguised as purpose, mercy disguised as work. A trooper approaches with a slate. Vader takes it and does not look, as if he already knows what it contains because he authored it in another room inside his mind. Your first movement, he says, voice dropping to the clarity that cuts away the rest of the world. A courier in the mid-rim. He carries names that do not belong in mouths. You will intercept. You will erase his trail. You will return without being seen by those who think themselves your allies. He extends the slate. Data trails crawl across it like the veins of leaves, a route, a window. 3 coded call signs you recognize only because the ring taught you how it feels when surviva. L tries to be clever. Your hand does not shake when you take it. Your stomach learns new gravity. Because the star map blooms. Because the route triangulates. Because the coordinates anchor on the junk ring where you were stripped of your first life. The orbit of your origin becomes your proving ground. Understood, you say, and you train your voice not to echo anything except obedience. He inclines his head the exact degree you have taught yourself to cherish. You will not be alone, he says, and the promise is a threat. The guildmaster is compromised. The registrar sold names and has begun to dream of leaving. Dreams are a form of treason, and both. The registrar, she of the windowless office and its taste for exactness, who stamped you into a ration line because the spreadsheet could not accept "we'll see." The thought should be easy. It sticks. The next line on the slate peels away the part of you that got stuck. A final face blossoms from the data, recorded badly, and at an angle that turns jawline into geometry. She has a braid with wire woven through. She smells, in your memory, like coolant and skin. You do not blink. The slate waits. He waits. The room waits. If the woman is present, he says, and even through the machine, the timbre shifts to something almost like curiosity sawed thin by time. You will teach her that absence is the only mercy we offer. You try to swallow. Your throat does not move. Children, he adds as if discussing a maintenance schedule, will be removed to work where their hands can be measured. The map flickers, so you do not have to. You sheath your blade so your fingers will stop telling the truth. Do you question me? He asks. No, my lord. The words scrape your mouth raw on their way out. Raw is preferable. Raw means you have not yet scarred over the part of you that must remain tender to know when you are still alive. He steps back. Then go, Umbra. The droids seal your armor. Your mask hisses as it takes your breath and gives it back ruined. In the reflection of the cooling forge, you catch a figure that looks like a rumor, sharpened to usefulness, turned away from the world they were born into and pointed at the one they will be allowed to touch only by undoing it. On your way to the hangar, the fortress speaks in heat and iron. You do not listen to it. You listen to the crystal under your ribs, which now hums in red, which will not let you pretend you are innocent, even when the galaxy lets you. The shuttle's ramp opens. Space lies beyond like a mouth with a polite smile. You pause at the threshold, and the smallest voice, which is not Vader's, which is not the older Shadow's, which is not the frightened child's, asks a question with no words, the kind you answer only by moving. When the engines lift you, the coordinates lock. The stars pull into lines. The cryopod's frost writing comes to you from the memory corridor where you left it. We will return. The hyperspace tunnel blooms like a wound, healing fast. In its blue, you see the woman who taught you to hold your breath. You see a registrar's tidy cruelty. You see a ring made of stubbornness and need. You see your blade writing your new name on the door of your oldest room. Umbra, the deeper voice purrs, satisfied. Come home. You step into the dark between stars and let it claim you. Blood always has a sound. It is not the splash or the drip that unsettles you. It is the silence that comes after, the stillness in the air, the pause in the breath of the one who bleeds. Blood carries weight. It soaks deeper than cloth, heavier than armor, louder than words. Tonight, it is your companion. Tonight, it will baptize your loyalty. The hyperspace tunnel collapses around you, and the stars return, pinpricks cold and watching. The shuttle slides into orbit above the ring where your life began. From above, it looks fragile, almost beautiful, a chain of scavenger hulls glittering like jewelry discarded across the dark. But you know better. You know the stink of coolant, the way hunger chews through ribs, the sound of rust groaning through the corridor. You have returned, but not as the child who once climbed scaffolds and listened for cables about to snap, not as the nobody who survived by silence. You return as Umbra, apprentice of Darth Vader. You return as death wearing a name. The troopers assigned to you wait in the shuttle's belly, helmets polished to blankness. Their blasters are tuned to efficiency. They do not speak unless commanded. You should feel power in their obedience in the way an entire squad bends to your word. Instead, you feel the weight of chains tightening. Vader has given you men not to aid you, but to watch you, to measure if you will falter. The slate's orders still echo in your mind. The courier must die. The guildmaster and registrar must die. The woman, if present, must die. Children will be relocated. Each instruction a nail hammered into your ribs. Each command a reminder that your survival is no longer your own. The shuttle latches onto the docking spine. You step into the corridors. Armored boots loud against the metal plates you once tiptoed across. Every face you pass stills. Every conversation breaks. The scavengers recognize he armor, the insignia, the shadow that walks with you. They bow their heads not in respect, but in fear. Fear is obedience. Vader taught you. Fear lasts longer than love. The registrar's office is exactly as you remember. Gray walls, neat ledgers, the faint smell of ink and oil. The registrar herself looks older, thinner, her eyes darting to the troopers at your back. She recognizes you, but not the name. You, she breathes, and for a flicker of a second there is recognition in her gaze, as though she still sees the child she once stamped into a ration line. What have they? The troopers fire before she can finish. The blaster bolt takes her in the chest, burning through cloth and flesh, dropping her across her tidy desk. The ledgers catch fire. Smoke curls upward like the ghost of her unfinished sentence. You do not flinch, but you do not breathe either. The guildmaster is next. He tries to bargain, his voice slick with desperation. He offers credits, smuggling routes, loyalty pledges. He drops to his knees. You end it quickly with your blade through his throat because Vader does not reward bargaining, only obedience. His body falls to the side, his mouth frozen in a shape that looks too much like prayer. Your troopers cheer softly through their comms. Another mission secured, another set of targets removed, but the slate's final command remains. She waits for you in the scaffolds, the woman who once pulled you from reactor conduits, who taught you to listen to the ship's hum, who whispered, "Hold your breath," as if it were a blessing. Her braid is streaked with wire and ash, her face lined deeper than memory, yet her eyes are unchanged, clear, sharp, alive. "You've come home," she says, though her voice is weary, and she knows home is a word that does not belong to either of you anymore. You raise your blade. Its red glow paints her features in cruel light. She does not run. She does not beg. She only studies you as she once studied broken machines, searching for the part that still works. "They took your name," she says softly, "but not all of it. You're still there, somewhere." The troopers shift, impatient. Their rifles click as they ready. The mission demands an answer. You hesitate, just a breath, just enough to remember what hesitation costs. Pain sears through your skull. The leash buried in your mind yanks tight. Vader's presence coils around you, cold and merciless. Though he is not here in flesh, his voice rasps through your thoughts. Do it. Prove your loyalty, or be nothing. The woman's eyes never leave yours. "You don't have to," she whispers. And for a moment, you want to believe her. Your hand trembles. Then the choice is taken from you. A trooper fires. The bolt strikes her in the chest. She staggers, folding to her knees, breath sharp and shallow. Blood blooms across her tunic, bright against the dark. She falls into your arms before you realize you move to catch her. Her voice is faint, almost gone. "Don't forget who you were." Her eyes close. The breath leaves her lips. She is gone. You kneel there, blade still humming, ash drifting through the scaffolds. Blood stains your gloves, hot and heavy, soaking through. You feel Vader's presence ease, his satisfaction heavy as iron. "Good," he whispers through the Force. "You are mine." The troopers await your command. The mission is complete. The chain pulls tighter, and yet, somewhere deep inside, a fracture spreads. Not wide, not visible, but present. A crack in the armor they built for you. A reminder that blood does not always mean obedience. Sometimes it means memory. Cliffhanger, transition. As you leave the scaffolds, a small hand tugs at your armor. A child stares up at you, with eyes too familiar, wire woven into a braid just like hers. "You're not one of them," the child whispers. The troopers do not notice, but you do. The first rebellion you hear is not a shout, it is a frequency. It threads through the hum of your shuttle like a hairline crack through glass, too faint for instruments, too steady to be an accident. It rasps along the back of your teeth in patterns that feel like breath held too long. 3 beats, a pause, 5 beats, a longer pause. Not noise, not weather, intention, wearing static as a cloak. You shouldn't be able to hear it. Your comm board shows only clean channels, Imperial issue, scrubbed to the bone, but the Force has taught you to listen where devices refuse. There, in the seam between sanctioned silence and lived sound, a message waits. Starling has flown, nest burns, delivered daylight to the hollow, code, amateur and earnest, a bird, a nest, a promise. It should be easy to ignore. It is not. You stare at the dark mirror of the cockpit canopy. The helmet staring back is yours now. Umbra's face, angles and blankness, a mouthpiece that turns your voice into a weather report. In that reflection, ash flickers where no ash exists. Scaffolds, wire in a braid, a hand smaller than yours catching on the seam of your glove. You're not one of them. The child's whisper returns without invitation. You try to file it under everything you left burning behind you. Registrar ledgers curling black, a guildmaster's prayer cut mid-vowel, the woman folding into your arms as if sleep could still be a kind thing. The past does not accept filing. Approach Vector Stable, the pilot droid churs, unbothered by ghosts. Kestrine Station requests identification. You give it. Your sleeve projects the seal that makes stations open their throats. Docking clamps bite. The shuttle's belly sighs as pressure equalizes. Your assigned troopers stand ready in the bay, white visors reflecting your red insignia in 100 warped fragments. You wave them back with 2 fingers. This is Ali's Steening mission. Boots stomp over whispers. Today you need whispers. Kestrine is a mid-rim lattice bolted onto the apathy of a small moon. Good metal bones, bad habits. Markets smell of citrus oil, rubbed into rust, and the sweet rot of fruit that should never have had the chance to ripen. Pilgrims move through on their way to nowhere. Guilders count their coin twice. And on every wall where the paint peels, someone has chalked the same small sigil. 2 arcs intersecting, a bird implied by absence. You turn your head as you walk, and the Force turns with you, adjusting the focus. The station sings. You choose one strand, a dockhand's heart picking up when a uniform rounds the corner. Another, a woman with a pram counting steps in 8s. And there, under them all, the frequency in your shuttle. 3 beats, a pause, 5 beats, a longer pause, ricocheting along the power conduits like a secret looking for ears. You follow it, past the market's amphitheater of barter and lies, down into the cartilage where maintenance corridors wear condensation like lace. A door waits with a hinge 1 week from failure. You knock, a rhythm you should not know, your bones knowing it anyway. Who's there? A voice says through the seam. Male, older, tired. Routine inspection, you say, helmet flattening your tone into an instrument. Radiation check. A laugh stabs through the door, brief and humorless. You lot finally figured out what we've been breathing? You don't answer. Locks click. The seam opens. Heat breathes on your faceplate. The man who admits you does not wear a uniform. He wears history. Thick shoulders gone lean, hair shaved close to hide a hairline that has lost the war. Scars his shirt doesn't bother to cover. He looks at your armor and says, without moving his mouth much, I don't salute ghosts. You tilt your head. You were a soldier. Everybody was. His eyes flick too. Oh, your hips, to the way your cloak falls, to the set of your shoulders. He recalculates. Not everybody stayed. You are measuring him while he measures you. The training you survived is an economy of attention. He fails the first test by letting his gaze linger too long near your mask. You file that away. He passes the second by not asking your name. You file that higher. What's behind the door? You ask. Boilers. Piping. Nothing you'd like. Show me. He steps aside. The room is a lung. Pipes ribbit, steam breathes through it, gauges blink with the brittle cheerfulness of machines that know they're lying. On a table between towers of valves, radio guts sprawl, untidy, unauthorized, alive. Wires like veins, a tuner cracked to let fingers reach the delicate fraud inside, and above it all, strung like prayer flags, scraps of paper with phrases handwritten in a rush. Nest, daylight, glass gull, the bone clock. When we can't say light, say bread. You don't move. Something in the way stillness changes a room teaches more than noise. They won't help you, you say finally, nodding at the flags. When the boots come, they're not for the boots. He wipes his hands on a rag. They don't get cleaner. They're for the people who will be trying to remember why they still have hearts. He is not afraid. No, that is not true. He is honest about his fear. It is a third hand prying locks from the inside. Who sends the messages? You ask. Starling. Daylight. Nobody. He smiles like a cutlery drawer rattling. Everybody. Pick one. He sighs, looks at the machine like an animal that will not be tamed and not allowed to run. We don't have generals, just errands. Your hand hovers over the tuner. The frequency nips at your palm like a small predator, deciding whether your blood will taste like victory. You adjust by the space of a breath. The static clarifies. A different voice steps through, young, guarded, amateur at disguise. Repeat, convoy route confirmed. Aid pallets disguised as pressure housings. Runners need pickup on the bone clock. Where is the bone clock, you ask, though you already see it. The station's main timekeeper, a bell tower of gears and shame in the central atrium, where people pretend to be too busy to notice what their lives cost them. He points anyway. 2 levels up. If you run now, you might catch hope before it runs. He knows what you are. He points you at it anyway. You turn to go. His voice catches on your cloak. Hey, he says. Whatever they call you, listen. We don't need heroes. We need people who don't crush bread when they hold it. You feel something unpleasant and familiar lift its head in the dark inside you, the watcher, the surveyor, the long hand that measures ruins. It does not permit dividends. It approves of hunger. Stand away from your radio, you tell him. If I can find it, others can. He nods. We're already packed to run. That's what living is now, running while pretending you still have a home. Up in the atrium, the bone clock bleeds rust. Children climb its lower braces for games their parents pretend not to forbid. Traders tuck counterfeit chits into real pockets. Two figures in mechanics' overalls push a crate on a float rig. The crate wears warning stripes, pressure housings, dangerous if mishandled, absolutely not full of food and medicine for people who cannot pay for air. Your troopers have followed at a distance, disciplined enough to let your shadow go first. A hand slap on your wrist pad can call them in. It would be clean. It would be done. Your orders unspool inside your skull like a spool of wire. Intercept, erase, return unseen by those who think themselves your allies. You step forward. The Force steps with you. The float rig's power cell coughs. The crate stalls. One of the mechanics swears. The other looks around too carefully. You stop 10 paces away, as if admiring engineering. Need a hand? You ask through the mask that eats tone and metabolizes it into sanction. We're fine, the older one lies, and turns her back on authority like a prayer. Brave. Foolish, necessary. You bend, you don't touch the rig. Your fingers hover, you listen. The cell's flow stutters on the left coil. You nudge it. The rig sighs into motion with a shiver like a relieved shoulder. Careful, you say. These housings explode when they feel cheated. You walk away. Your trooper's channel buzzes. Awaiting go. You do not give it. Instead, you follow the rig at a delay, becoming the shadow your name promised. The route is a labyrinth, the kind built by fear and practice, through old service passages and new lies. Your boots make no sound. Your heartbeat makes enough. At a junction above an old water treatment plant, the mechanics pause to catch breath and dignity. You drop behind them from a pipe with a whisper of cloak. Hands, you say, and their hands go up like birds startled from a wire. Open. They do. Grease lines their palms. Old scars make maps along their lifelines. Human then, rather than the righteous abstractions that make killing tidy. Your saber does not ignite. You have learned there are other kinds of light. What you're carrying, you say, goes where? Pressure housings, the older says. You're not good at lying. We're out of practice. Let me help you practice. You step closer, enough to smell their fear and the citrus oil from the market. Say the words. We are taking these to a hole in the station nobody remembers exists. Then tell me the truth, because if I ask a second time, I'll ask with my hand, and you won't enjoy the less. Something in your voice, some inheritance from the mask breathing like a metronome, convinces them lying is an expensive luxury. The younger one cracks. There's a place, she says, below ballast level. Old shrine, before the guilds took the station. People get air there when the meters malfunction. That's all. We're not soldiers. Everyone is, you say, hearing the man's words turn to mirrors in your mouth. You just haven't been paid yet. You open the crate. Pressure housings stare back. Efficiently fabricated, legally labeled, innocent to an inspector's eye. You slide one free with 2 fingers and uncap it. Inside, ration bricks, water tabs, a med patch case stamped with a hospital's logo from a world that insists it does not have refugees. Under that, taped to the inner curve where fingers would not find it by accident, a drive wafer. You palmed it before your eyes admitted it. You turn it between thumb and forefinger. No labels, no glow, but it hums like a memory you haven't met yet. You slip it into your vambrace with the same motion you use to close a wound. Run slower, you tell them. What? Slow enough that surveillance watching you loses interest. If you flee, you invite a chase. If you walk, you look boring. Boring survives. They stare. You step back into the shadowy anatomy of the corridor and become absence. The Force flexes around their bodies to hide them from drums they cannot hear. It is a small treason. It tastes enormous. Your troopers ping again. Command? You can almost hear them think, why are we letting gravity go unpoliced? Stand by. You answer, the words tasting like a cut you're not sure you can stitch. Monitoring. You don't follow the mechanics to the hole under the station. They'll seed your ears with gratitude. Gratitude is loud. You go the other way, back into the lung of pipes where the radio man might already be packing. Up his errand. Gone. Good. You open your vambrace and feed the drive wafer to your slate. A map blooms, sector grid blurred by a child's shaking hand, a ship lane marked with a circle that is not a circle, but a sanctuary drawn by someone who believes in impossible shapes. Coordinates, names that hate being written. And at the center, stamped as if in error and corrected hard by another hand, Vesper Monastery, deconsecrated. Under it, in smaller script, the Lost One hears us. Lost One. The Ash Valley returns with its hush and its grief. The green blade, the space between mercy and obedience, where your body stalled and something else tried to breathe for you. You touch the word as if it might burn. Jedi. You ping your shuttle for a jump solution. The computer spits one back with a chirp and a complaint. Mid-rim to outband. 2 safe points. 3 ways to die stupid. You file the last one as likely. On your way back through the atrium, the bone clock ticks like a tired god. The chalk sigils on the walls have multiplied. Someone working fast, hand steady. A trooper falls into step beside you, obedient without curiosity. Status? He asks. Fluid, you say. We have a lead. He doesn't ask where. He doesn't need to know. He is there to be seen forcing absence into shape. You are there to be absence. A dock hand glances at you and away with a flinch that can be read as guilt or wisdom. You remember small hands, wire in a braid, a recorded voice. Hold your breath. You discover you have been holding it. You let it go in a measured exhale that turns into an order. Recall, you say over squad comms. Back to the Red Wing. We're leaving. Destination? The pilot droid asks when you break orbit. You feed the coordinates like feeding yourself a dare. Vesper, cold approach, dark. Lord Vader? The droid inquires, because machines prefer their gods informed. You consider the wafer's hum against your pulse. You consider the leash under your skin. You consider what initiative useful will get you through another dawn. Tell command, you say, that Umbra is tracking a source of contraband religious material. Low threat, high nuisance. Recommend swift excision. The lie is transparent. It passes anyway, because bureaucracy survives by pretending not to see what makes it uncomfortable. The shuttle shivers into the blue geometry of jump space, and for a time your world is a tunnel, your thoughts the rails that guide it, your name a word that someone else keeps learning how to say with your mouth. The drive wafer sits warm against the inside of your wrist. You turn it so the edges bite your skin, a pain so simple it feels like mercy. Vesper Monastery stains the starfield black when you drop. It clings to the limb of a dying world where the atmosphere leaks into space like an apology. Stone buttresses hook into vacuum. Tower windows blink with candlelight or the memory of candlelight. You have seen ships die more gracefully. You do not send a hail. You do not circle. You kiss the shadowed side with magnet claws and slip through a service hatch so narrow even your breath hunches its shoulders. Inside, dust. Prayer rugs furred by time, the scent of old paper and new fear. You move like a thought someone is trying not to think. The nave is a mouth that forgot what singing was for. The statues here didn't break. They were turned to face the wall, as if ashamed to look at what time did to faith. In the apse, a small altar survives under a tarp, square-headed, stubborn. A bowl rests on it. You approach with the caution you reserve for bombs and memory. The bowl is full of chalk. On the wall above, someone has drawn the same bird in 100 sizes, as if practicing flight. In the center of the flock, a sentence waits. We don't say light, we say bread. Footsteps. You don't spin, you let them approach. The force arrives first. A current in the air that remembers what the world felt like before the Empire told it to use inside voices. You know its signature, not the person, the philosophy. The monastery breathes like a grave that refused to stay shut. Ash and dust stir in eddies across the stone floor as your saber shrieks alive. Crimson light spilling jagged shadows across the pillars. Across from you the Jedi raises their blade, green, steady, a dawn among ruins. The glow paints their silver hair gold, a reminder that once they stood for something brighter. Now they stand in front of you, refusing to fall. You came here for me, the Jedi says, voice worn but certain. But I think you came here for yourself. Their words slide under your armor like needles. You shut them out the way Vader taught you, by drowning them in anger. You strike first. The red blade carves the air with fury, sparks igniting as your sabers crash together. The chamber roars with energy, each swing a thunderclap in stone ribs. You press forward, heavy, relentless. Each strike a hammer meant to break resolve. The Jedi yields ground but does not falter, parrying with grace, turning each of your storms into rivers that run harmlessly aside. This is no sparring pit. This is no drone programmed to lose. This is trial. The Force thrums around you, alive with tension, pulling at your every motion. You lunge, sweeping low, then twist upward in a vicious arc. The Jedi deflects, steps back into shadow, and answers with a strike that sears past your mask, close enough to taste the ozone. You stagger, air burning in your lungs, rage stoking hotter. Is this all he has made of you? The Jedi asks between blows. An echo with no voice of your own? You roar, silencing the words with violence. Anger fuels you. Blades whirl, boots slam across ancient stone, columns collapse under missed strikes. Dust rains down, choking the air. Your arms ache, your heart pounds, but still you fight, desperate not just to kill, but to silence the reflection their words force you to see. The Jedi does not meet you. They serve fury with fury. They meet it with patience. Every time you overreach, they turn you. Every time you collapse into rage, they let you burn yourself. Their blade is not a weapon. It is a mirror, and in its reflection, you see yourself too clearly. A child who listened to cables hum, a face caught in scaffold's shadows, a name stolen and rewritten. The fight drives you both into the nave, where old tapestries hang in tatters. Your saber slashes them apart, fire licking through cloth that once carried prayers. The green light cuts clean, severing chains of flame before they spread. You feint, then drive forward with a savage overhead blow. The Jedi blocks, but the impact cracks the flagstone beneath your boots. You shove, pouring every ounce of hatred into the lock. Their knees tremble. The Force swirls, heat rising like a storm. Victory, yours, finally, within reach. But then their eyes find yours. They are not eyes of fear, they are eyes of sorrow. You remind me of him, they whisper, of Anakin. The name slams through you like lightning. You recoil, guard shattering, your master's secret, spoken aloud here by an enemy you were meant to destroy. The Jedi does not press the opening. They lower their blade, chest heaving, not in triumph but in grief. You are more than his shadow, they say, more than his chain. You can still choose. You freeze, saber trembling. The leash inside your skull tightens, Vader's presence coiling across the galaxy like a noose. His voice rasps inside you. Mercy is treason. Strike them down. The Jedi does not attack. They simply wait. Waiting is worse. Waiting leaves the decision yours. Your hands shake. Rage screams for release. Loyalty screams for blood. But somewhere deep within, beneath the chains and scars, another voice stirs. The one that caught sparks in the air. The one that almost chose to spare. Power, you learn, has a temperature. It is not heat. Heat is honest. Fire licks. Metal glows. Flesh warns. Power is the opposite. A clean, airless cold that fogs nothing and leaves fingerprints nowhere. You wear that temperature now. Your mask flattens your breath into weather. The cloak swallows your outline. Your name, Umbra, arrives ahead of you in sealed memos and moves behind you in rumors no one wants to be caught repeating. The galaxy's lights seem dimmer from this altitude. Palace spires, shipyard suns, ballrooms gilded with borrowed courage. You pass through them like a shadow across a dial. Time recorded, hush enforced. He did not unmake you for failing at Vesper. He reforged you. Mustafar took your voice and taught it new consonants, precision, absence, inevitable. He said very little while you bled into focus. Most of what you learned came from the silences between his sentences. When he was done, he did not say forgiven. Forgiveness is a language the fortress does not speak. He said only, you will function. You do. The montage of your usefulness plays across a dozen worlds. On Ord Tellus, a warlord with more swagger than troops claims 3 sectors by printing his own currency on stolen presses. You end his economy with a failure of air. The press hall locks at shift change. The vents exhale emptiness. When the doors finally yield to loyal fists, the men inside are still at their posts, tongues blue, hands stiff on levers that will never pay wages again. A single sigil burned into the press bed tells successors who did this. Not a name. Your name is never written, but the silhouette of a bird crossed out by a red line. We don't say light, we say bread. You never forget the chalk. The line is for you, as much as for them. On Braca's scrap fields, a whistleblower feeds names to an underground grid of medics hiding under ship ribs and in derelict engine bells. You meet him at dusk on a bridge of girders latticed over a grave of cruisers. He is young and too earnest to live long. He tells you the Empire cannot swallow sorrow forever. It will choke. You let him finish his sentence because you owe him the grammar. Then you put him over the rail without igniting your blade. The difference between mercy and kindness is a measurement that keeps changing every time you look at it. In the senatorial quarter on Coruscant, a dinner begins with orchestras and ends in silence. Crystal catches the chandelier's light and clinks like a polite rain. A senator raises a glass and says something clever about stability. You stand behind the mirror of a neighboring atrium where your reflection refuses to stand with you. You flick 2 fingers. Across the gap, the senator's heart remembers a debt to fear and pays it with a misfire. He slumps amid lilies and compliments. The orchestra pauses on one impossible note and never quite finds it again. An aide cries. 3 others carefully do not. You are at the shuttle by the time dessert is served. On a reef world, a listening post built into a drowned temple wakes at your approach. Its dish rises through a skin of phosphorescent water and drinks the sky. Rebels whisper through it in migratory patterns. You dent the dish's rim with your fist. The signal distorts by a fraction almost too small to matter. The whispers drift off course, land in nets you placed a week ago, and learn what happens to birds that trust air more than shadow. Useful, he says after each movement, and the approval sets in your chest like solder. It is not warmth, it is adhesion. When he says again, your feet are already moving. You become an absence that makes other things real. The ISB notices and does not ask questions. Questions are not their trade. Results are. They send you files labeled hand delivery with the hand drawn. As a red stamp, the Inquisitorius notices and asks too many questions with their eyes. They drift around you like sharks that have learned to walk well enough to wear capes. One with a scar under his right eye smiles like a peeled wire. We should hunt together, he purrs. You do not say I hunt alone. You say nothing. He laughs. Because silence is a dialect he misinterprets as consent. Vader speaks to you less often in words and more often in assignments, so clear they feel like verdicts. You cannot tell which is punishment and which is reward. The difference keeps not mattering. Still, the chorus of low voices in the cracks of the Empire refuses to die. You hear them in corridors that smell like coolant and prayers. You hear them in the pauses between troopers' jokes. Sometimes you help them without anyone seeing you help. On Kestrine, 2 mechanics move a crate marked pressure housings. You unjam their rig with a thought and teach them to walk slow instead of run. Later that night, you erase a patrol log and make a door forget to be locked. The next day, 9 children have bellyfuls for the first time in a week. An officer praises improved discipline among the lower decks. You nod. You do not say bread. You carry the drive wafer from Vesper in your vambrace. You have read its map enough times for creases to form in places Data should not know how to crease. Vesper Monastery, deconsecrated. Beneath it, in the careful hand of someone who believed in teaching the future to read, the lost one hears us. The green saber hums in your marrow whenever a room goes quiet enough. You tell yourself you will end them next time. You tell yourself this under ceilings that do not fall. The Emperor's voice, the one that found you on the shuttle the day your life changed shape, stays mostly patient. It brushes the edges of your mind now and then, like a gloved finger tracing the seam in a vase to test. Tight where to tap. At last I sense you, it had said once. Since then, nothing you can prove, only the sense that the room sometimes contains an extra presence who finds everything meet. Mission briefings change tone. Less where and when now, more who and why. The files are names wrapped in contexts, skins over bone. Senators who speak too carefully, governors who practice the art of not hearing, guildmasters who count bread out loud where they can be overheard counting. You cut names from contexts and contexts from bones. Your blade learns the weight of silence left behind. One name resists your hand, Governor Lacey Crail of the Mid-Sable Reach. He is a man of smooth speeches and rough habits, portraited with a family he uses for ballast when he makes sharp turns. On paper, he is loyal. Off paper, he bleeds credits to both sides, paying the Empire in tributes, the rebellion in oxygen. Excision, Vader says, as if reading from a dictionary. You plan a lever where other operatives would plan a blade. You send the ISB a whisper, withheld enough to look accidental, about Krail's off-ledger shipments. You give Inquisitors a scent, a rumor that someone in Krail's house dreams in green. You arrange for Krail to look out a balcony at dawn and see a chalk bird on the underspire 200 meters below where no one but him could have placed it. You let fear do arithmetic. Within a week his holdings are carved by agencies that will profit more from his absence than his presence. He never meets your saber. He resigns on a live channel with his mouth trying to be brave and his eyes failing at arithmetic. The Empire says discipline. The rebellion says proof that pressure works. You say nothing because talking would make you visible. The chain pulls on different links another week later when a convoy vanishes in a fog bank that did not exist on any meteorological chart. You find the bank. You find its teeth, a camouflaged carrier the size of a cathedral, flying flags painted on banners that can be rolled up in a hurry. Docked inside are small freighters pretending to be innocent. You cut the bank with your blade. The fog remembers what it used to be, air, and disperses. The carrier does not run. It tries to pray. Your guns do not recognize prayer. They recognize heat signatures. The fog burns. Afterward, in the quiet, you walk through the carrier's sanctum. A table waits with a bowl of chalk. On the wall behind it, the sentence you saw at Vesper repeats in a dozen hands, the letters stubborn despite the soot. We don't say light, we say bread. A small voice in your memory whispers, you're not one of them. You deny it by telling your feet to keep moving. They obey. Obedience is a habit the Empire wants to mistake for virtue. The ISB sends you a thank you, dry, stamped, weighted with implications. The Inquisitor with the peeled wire smile finds you in a hangar and taps the hilt of your blade as if greeting a dog. When you tire of chasing crumbs, he says, come hunt believers. You say nothing. He leans in until his breath fogs your mask. He won't protect you forever, he murmurs. He can't even protect himself. You are halfway through a reply you will regret when Vader's shadow arrives in the corridor ahead of him. The Inquisitor's fog vanishes. Lord, he says, silk turning to starch, and drifts off to be dangerous elsewhere. Report, Vader says. You condense a week into sentences that avoid adjectives. He listens the way a cliff listens to weather. When you finish, he does not say useful. He says, you will travel to Silex Station. You will retrieve a list. A list? Names acquired from seized transmissions. Children. The Inquisitorius will collect those with promise. The rest will be repurposed. You do not ask what repurposed me. Prince. The Empire rarely wastes breath on euphony unless it intends cruelty. Vader's mask tips a degree. There is interference in the sector. Do not let it teach you patience. The shuttle to Silex is a coffin with delusions of grace. The station itself hangs over a gas giant like guilt over an old decision. Rings around rings, lights blinking in old Morse that used to mean safe harbor and now means paperwork. Docking clearance grudges itself into being. You go alone. You always go alone to rooms that matter. The list sits in a vault that pretends to be a library. Shelves, paper. A clerk with a spine like a question mark and hands that shake around the edges of duty. He does not meet your eyes. He meets your ident stamp. He does not ask what the list is for. He asks where to sign. You place your palm on the data plate and let the room decide you belong here. Names march across the display when the vault yields. So many they stop being discrete and become a texture, like sand, ages, worlds, notations that taste of failure. Disappeared, moved on, no response. Then another column, shorter, marked by a careful hand, awoke the air around them. That is a poetic way to say, trouble in a system that hates poetry. You scroll without breathing. The third name from the bottom is a shiprat designation nobody should have bothered writing. It is attached to a location that makes your blood decide to become ice. Junk ring, orbit 9 Delta, your first sky, your first scaffolds. The registrar's tidy cruelty, a woman's braid bright with wire, a small hand tugging your glove. You're not one of them. The clerk clears his throat. You realize your fingers have tightened on the edge of the console, metal creaking under your grip. A confession no camera can translate into law. You let go. Seal this vault, you tell him. No one enters without my leave. He nods as if nodding is the last skill in his body that remembers what it was taught. Out in the corridor, the force changes pressure. The floor seems to tilt a degree toward a gravity that is not the gas giant's. You pause. The air picks up a frequency you have learned to fear, not because it harms, but because it has no interest in pretending it doesn't. The deeper voice, the one that found you in the shuttle and has been patient ever since. arrives without steps. At last, it says, the words, "A hand you cannot see, closing over the back of your neck. At last you hold something I want to weigh." You look up. The corridor is empty, in the way a mouth is empty when it is about to speak. The lighting strips flicker without failing. Your comm does not hiss. Your mask does not fog. And yet you are no longer alone. A hollow emitter in the ceiling you did not notice before hums to life, not the station's brand. A frequency you were never meant to meet. For a heartbeat, the projection is nothing, just a density in the air. Then a hood resolves. Then a mouth you have seen carved into statues of history. Then eyes like old coins with the emperors still stamped on them. You do not kneel. Your legs consider it without asking you. "Come to me," the emperor says, voice as soft as a knife's shadow. "My hand." The corridor's temperature drops to that clean, airless cold that fogs nothing and leaves fingerprints nowhere. Your wrist comm burns. Vader's channel opens at the same instant, his command slicing through the other presence like a warning shot through fog. "Umbra," he says, iron and storm. "Status." 2 masters hang in the air, one a wound taught to walk, the other the wound's author. Between them, you and a list of children who woke the air around them, and a name tied to a junk ring that never quite let you go. Your thumb hovers over transmit, your other hand tightens around the lie. Est until the corners bite blood from your palm. Bread, light, leash, choice. The Emperor's hood tilts, patient as an avalanche considering which slope to choose. "Kneel," he murmurs, "not to your body but to the fracture inside you. You do not move, not yet." The galaxy holds its breath around you. 2 voices wrestle for your obedience. One is iron, mechanical, relentless, the rasping metronome of your master, Darth Vader. The other is older, softer, yet infinitely more terrible, the whisper of the Emperor, the architect of your chains. They do not speak to one another. They speak through you, as if you are nothing more than a blade caught between hands. "Umbra," Vader's voice cracks through your comm, as heavy and inevitable as gravity. "Report. Now." "Kneel," the Emperor murmurs, his hooded visage flickering before you in spectral light. "I will make you whole." The datapad in your hand trembles, the name scrawled across it bleeding into your palm like ink and blood. One name burns brighter than the rest. The junk ring, Orbit 9 Delta, the place of your first breath, the first alarm, the first shadow, the place you thought you left buried in fire. Your knees threaten to buckle, not from loyalty, not from faith, from pressure, from the crushing gravity of being seen by both masters at once. You do not kneel, not yet. The projection flickers, the Emperor's golden eyes narrowing with patience disguised as inevitability. Vader's silence on the other end of the comm is heavier than words. He knows something presses on you. He feels the leash inside your skull pulled taut, straining against his grip. At last, the Emperor fades, dissolving into static like a star collapsing into its own hunger. The pressure withdraws, leaving only the rasp of Vader's breath. "Umbra," you force your voice steady. "The vault has been secured. The list is in my possession." A pause. Mechanical inhale. Mechanical exhale. Then, "Return to Mustafar." Immediately, the line goes dead. You are left alone with the datapad, blood beating in your palm where the corners bit too deep. The journey back is quiet, too quiet. In hyperspace, the tunnel of blue light stretches infinite, but your thoughts move faster. You remember the Jedi's words in the monastery. "You remind me of him." You remember the woman's whisper as she bled in your arms. "Don't forget who you were." You remember the child tugging at your glove, whispering, "You're not one of them." 3 ghosts, 3 voices, and now a 4th, an Emperor who promises to make you whole by hollowing you out. You stare at your reflection in the cockpit glass. The mask stares back. It does not blink. For the first time, you wonder if the cracks are not in the mask at all. Perhaps they are in you. Mustafar greets you with fire. The fortress rises like an obsidian fang out of a sea of lava, smoke choking the air, the heat searing your lungs even through filtration. You kneel in the throne chamber, the floor hot enough to sting through your boots, while Vader's shadow falls over you. He does not move. He does not speak. He only breathes. The silence stretches, each rasp of the respirator a judgment. Finally, you hesitate. Your throat tightens. "I retrieved the list. The mission is complete." Yet I felt you falter. The leash strained. The shadow trembled. His saber ignites with a hiss that cuts through the chamber's heat, bathing you in crimson light. "Explain." The air thickens. Your heart hammers against the armor. Words rise, truths you cannot speak, that the Emperor reached for you, that you almost broke, that cracks have begun to spread through the shadow he built. Instead, you bow lower. I did not falter, my lord. I live only to serve. Silence. The blade hums above your neck. Then, at last, it extinguishes. You are useful still, he says, but doubt is infection. Infection spreads. He steps closer, the weight of his presence crushing down on you. Fail me again, and I will excise you as I would rot from flesh. Yes, my lord. You do not rise until he commands it, and when you do, you know his mask sees more than your silence admits. He knows something reached for you, something older, something greater, and he knows it left a mark. Your missions continue, but the cracks deepen. On Raxus Prime, you slaughter smugglers who smuggle more than goods. They smuggle refugees. Among the bodies, you find a child no older than you were when alarms first taught you fear. They look up at you with wide eyes, blood on their hands that is not theirs, clutching a ration brick marked with chalk. Bread. You raise your saber, then stop. The troopers do not see. You wave them on, letting the child slip into the wreckage. A small rebellion, a single stone thrown at the iron wall of obedience. On Kato Nemoidia, you silence a senator who dared to speak of corruption. In their office, you find a holoprojector still warm with use. It replays the senator's last message to the rebellion. Not strategy, not tactics, just a plea. Do not forget what it means to be people. You erase the file, but the words echo in your chest like an unanswered comm. On Mustafar, in the training chambers, you face droids and troopers alike. You cut them down without hesitation, but your strikes carry something new. Not just fury, not just obedience, but doubt. The crystal in your saber hums uneasily, as if protesting the lies you force it to sing, and then whispers. Not from the Emperor, not from Vader, from the galaxy itself. Wherever you go, you hear them. In markets, in prisons, in the hollow corridors of stations stripped bare. A word carried in chalk on walls, in code on frequencies, in the desperate murmurs of people clinging to scraps of hope. Rebellion. The word hunts you. It clings to you. It coils in your chest until you wonder if the cracks spreading in your shadow are not fractures, but doorways. One night, alone in your quarters on Mustafar, you ignite your saber. The red light bleeds across the walls, but in its hum you hear another note, softer, almost drowned, green. You close your eyes, and for a moment the monastery returns. The Jedi's voice. You can still choose. Your hand trembles. The door hisses open. A trooper stands at attention. My lord, Lord Vader summons you. You extinguish the blade. The crack in the mask widens. Unseen, but undeniable. Cliffhanger. Transition. The throne chamber waits once more. Vader's presence heavy as stone. But this time, as you kneel, you feel something else in the chamber. An echo, unseen, watching. Not Vader, not the Emperor. Something older, something waiting for the crack to break open. And in that silence, a thought you cannot kill whispers through you. What if I am more than a shadow? You wake to the fortress opening a vein. Somewhere below your quarters, a seam you have never seen lifts like a wound lip, and hot air climbs the shaft with the smell of iron and old lightning. The walls hum, a frequency the keep uses for words when it has more to say than doors can. In your bones, it registers as permission, or perhaps, if you are honest, summons. You rise before the chime. You have learned to move when the shadow moves. The corridor outside breathes heat in slow exhalations. Torches gutter without flame. The obsidian is wet in places where it should be dry, as if the stone has remembered sweat. He is waiting at the top of the stairs that lead down where no trooper walks. The mask is a small moon in this darkness, black eating what little light there is. The respirator measures your fear and finds it acceptable. Come, he says. You follow without question. You never have to ask where. On Mustafar, down is the only direction that matters. The stairwell narrows the lower you go. Stone pressing close, ribbed by reinforcement struts that glance your shoulders like unfriendly fingers. Heat drips, collects, runs. Your mask filters pick up ash too fine to see. Small things move in the cracks and go still when light crosses them. The force pools thick here, as if the planet learned to prey by drowning and never found a reason to surface. This place, he says when you almost stumble on a threshold, remade me. He does not say how. The sentence is not an invitation. It is context. The shape of a door. You step through anyway. The chamber is larger than you expect. It does not want to be. The ceiling hunches low as if to keep secrets from floating up the shaft where they might be mistaken for steam. Obsidian ribs arc overhead. They hold up the world like tireless backs. In the center lies a platform of vitrified stone fused to durasteel. A scar forced flat. The Sias. Odor of a cooled tongue. A walkway ends there and remembers being longer. Over the edge, a river of lava slides past with the patience of law. The sound is not a roar. It is a chorus of whispers rehearsing the same sentence for centuries. The air carries the memory of screaming. Not a sound now, an after-image in your blood. He does not step onto the platform. Neither do you. He looks at it the way old soldiers look at photographs and do not speak names. You will cross, he says. There is no bridge. There is a proposition. You listen, and the world that is not world answers. Your breath slips under your ribs and becomes a blade you can walk. The lava's heat wraps you like a dare. Your boots find purchase where there is none, because belief makes certain kinds of matter hard enough to hold you. The distance is small. The distance is what it cost. On the platform, the heat is bearable if you only believe it. You kneel without letting your armor complain. At the far edge, where the vitrified stone meets nothing, you see 4 small lines carved into the glass, side by side, shallow and human. The marks of fingers that did not want to go. They reflect your mask in miniature, 4 black suns that cannot light anything. What am I to do here, you ask? Your voice turned to iron by the room. Listen, he says. Learn what the past costs. Bring me back what it yields. He turns. He leaves you alone with the heat and the whispering river. You do as you were told long before words taught you obedience. You listen. At first, there is only the low talk of dependent stone, the tick of cooling seam, your own breath counting you. Then the room corrects your expectations as any good teacher does, by changing the subject to what matters. Light flickers where no light is. Not flame, memory. The force leans toward you the way animals lean toward salt. Your fingers twitch toward your hilt and find it is already in your hand. You do not ignite it. You do not want to argue with a story told by a place that never forgot. Shadows walk the chamber like actors asked to reprise roles. A young man crosses the walkway in long steps, cloak snapping, a face so alive with conviction it makes you feel both wonder and contempt. He moves like someone who wants to be forgiven by a future he intends to invent. The platform drinks his weight. He looks over the river and the heat licks at him without asking permission. Behind him, another shadow, steadier, the lines of care around his mouth not unkind. Blue light cuts the dark twice. The blades meet with a sound that is not screaming and yet is. You do not hear words. You are spared that theft. You see motion. You see the ways people make the same mistake with different hands. The young man strikes like a verdict. The other parries like an apology. They move through postures that know each other better than enemies should. Love has a shape when it fights. It looks like instruction killing its teacher. When the young man falls, he does not fall into lava. Not in truth. He falls into a principle, and the principle sets him on fire because that is its nature. You reach for the edge without moving. It would be a mercy to believe you would have done something. Had you been there? The room refuses you that softness. It shows you instead a shape stumbling away later, what was left carried by machines that lied about salvation. The shadows clear. The platform is only glass again. You stare at the small finger grooves and know they did not keep anyone. You do not know the young man's name until the room works its second lesson. A seam opens in the platform between your knees, too precise to be accident. Too stubborn to be an invitation from anyone alive. Out of it rises a thing that does not belong here, and yet was left precisely here. A recorder sealed in a casing so scarred it looks grown, its metal bearing a crest you have only ever seen woven into museum tapestries, 2 wings curving into a heart. Naboo. It is a symbol of a world that built apartments for birds along its bridges because the wind asked nicely. It does not belong in a furnace. You take the recorder the way you would pick up a soft body on a battlefield, careful, as if carefulness could reverse causality. The casing requires a pass you do not have. The Force does not care about passes when memory insists on being seen. The lock becomes an opinion undone. The holoprojection opens into dust motes. At first there is only a chair and a window and a steady light that certainly never lived on Mustafar. Then a woman, young and not naive, sits forward. Her hands are in her lap, one thumb worrying the other. Her mouth is a governor for the tremble in her voice. The governor works until it doesn't. Anakin, she says. The name passes through you like a blade wrapped in cloth. You have heard it muttered as blasphemy, once whispered in a monastery like a prayer. A throat could not decide whether to reject or protect. In your skull the syllables find purchase. I don't know which message gets through, the woman continues, and now you hear the tremble holding. Dignity like a flag in a high wind. I don't know who you are when this finds you. But if there is any part of the boy who loved the impossible, listen to me. Whatever you think you were promised, it wasn't this. There is still good. There is still a way. No names for that woman climb to your tongue. You do not need them. The Force gives you the scent of lakes and democracy that believed in itself. The recording ends badly, not with a signature, but with the brief human scrabble of someone deciding whether to trust time. Cut. Silence. You realize you have leaned toward the ghost and correct your spine as if posture could erase confession. The recorder is heavier now, not mass, consequence. You are not alone. You feel him before the sound announces him. The platform does not cool when he steps onto it. It dares. What did the stone show you? He asks. There is no curiosity. Curiosity is appetite. This is audit. You allow yourself one heartbeat. 2. You have been taught honesty as a weapon and lies as a silence. You choose a hybrid that feels like a species trying not to die. War, you say. A failure. A lesson. He does not move. And this? He gestures to the recorder you should not be holding now that he has seen it. You do not remember drawing it behind your cloak. You must have. The part of you that survives on scaffolds knows when to become absence. A relic, you say. Unreadable. Cracked. The respirator is very loud. Sometimes, when he does not speak, the machine sounds like someone trying to decide whether breathing is still an option. Discard it, he says. You should walk to the lip and drop the recorder into a river that solves problems the way Empire does. Heat first, then gravity. You do not move. The leash tightens in your skull at very low volume. Not the audible pain of punishment, the threat of it, which teaches better because it leaves imagination room to compose extra verses. You step to the edge. Lava pens its cursive with pati. Ends below. The recorder is warm in your hand. The crest under your thumb is a softness engineered into metal by a culture that had a budget for kindness. There is still good. Your fingers release. The recorder falls. You stop it one skin below the surface. The Force curves around it like hands learning to catch. To anyone on the platform, nothing moves. To the heat, a promise does not keep. You let it swing outward, then inward again, until the magnet in your vambrace whispers to the tiny clasp in its casing, and the recorder kisses the cuff under your cloak the way secrets do when they want to survive. It is an act so small rebellion would be embarrassed to claim it. Done, you say. The lava burps. The heat nods to complicity and says nothing. He does not look over. He looks through you. Your loyalty is function, he says, as if reminding himself of something a planet told him once, and that he accepted only because the alternative would have been choosing to remain human. Keep it. He turns to leave. You turn with him. The seam closes behind you, erasing the platform the way the ship erased your footfalls in the ring. No trooper will stand there. No senator will find it on a map. It belongs to 2 people and a river. On the climb back up, the keep cools by degrees until the air learns to imagine rooms again. At the last landing before corridors remember bureaucracy, he stops. The pause is dangerous. Not because stillness is always a trap, but because stillness is where choices accumulate. You have something else, he says. A list. You do not flinch. Flinching is a verb reserves for when you forget there are masks. Yes, my lord. Children. Waking air. Names, you say. Deliver it to the inquisitorius. The sentence is a blade placed carefully on a table. It is not a command in need of a reply so much as a leash thrown ahead of you so the floor can learn your path. Understood, you say. He does not move immediately. The mask tilts by degrees until it is almost a face in conversation. Anakin, he says, and for a fraction of a breath there is a phenomenon you would call voice if the machine did not practice pollution. If you hear that name spoken again, do not let the mouth finish the sentence. You understand it as mercy. You understand it as murder. There is little difference at this altitude. He leaves you at the corridor where heat turns to administration. You move toward your quarters to retrieve the list, which is not in your quarters. It is in your vambrace, against the recorder, where guilt can keep company with temptation the way knives keep company with bandages. When you are alone, you draw both out. 2 weights, one past and one unarrived future. The list scrolls under your thumb. Worlds, ages, notations written by careful hands trying not to lose more than they have to. Near the bottom, junk ring, orbit 9 Delta. Beside it, a serial that has no right ever to have been committed to logic. A designation one letter off from the child who tugged your glove. You should send the file. You should burn the recorder. You should not be shaking. The air tightens, not with his presence, with older weather, quiet, patient, amused at your insistence on building houses under a sky that never promised to hold. The Emperor does not appear. He does not have to. He is the architecture of letting things happen you will later call your decision. At last, the voice that found you in the shuttle breathes. Fingertips on the back of your neck again, measuring the line where skin becomes obedience. Now you touch what he fears. What does he fear? Not rebels, not senators, not children learning to move doors with breath, not even the word that can still hurt him like a bruise under armor. He fears choice. You close your fist around the list until the names complain. The recorder in your other hand bumps your knuckles in sympathy. Footsteps outside your door. Not the heavy metronome of troopers marching in narrative. A softer cadence, measured. The peeled wire smile of an inquisitor lifts the air with the suggestion of perfume and rust. A chime. Umbra, he says through the seal, voice light as ash. Lord Vader says you have something for us. You look from the door to the file to the crest from a green world that should have built apartments for birds forever. The room's temperature decides to remember the clean cold of power. You tuck the recorder into a crevice so small you do not know it until your fingers find it. You flatten the list on your palm until it looks like a piece of bureaucracy. Come, you say, and your voice makes obedience sound like a kind of weather. The door slides. The Inquisitor steps in with eyes that always believe they deserve to. You're a difficult rumor to catch, he says, and his smile is a blade offered like a handshake. You extend the list. His fingers brush yours. They are colder than they look. He skims. He stops. He almost smiles with his eyes. Ah, he says, lingering on a line of text that might as well have been carved into you with a careful nail. Orbit 9. You keep your helmet still. The trick to lying is to be larger than the truth you refuse. Collect, you say. Repurpose. He laughs. It is a pleasant sound if you never had to hear it twice. Of course. He turns toward the door, list tucked like a folded bird under his arm. Kneel when the Emperor calls, he says over his shoulder, light, as if remarking on weather. It makes the lightning gentler. The door seals. The corridor forgets a visit occurred. You sit on your... The air tastes like war before the blades even touch. Orbit 9, the junk ring of your birth hangs above the dead planet like a crown of rusted knives. You once called it home. Now it is bait. Vader's shuttle bleeds into orbit on wings of shadow. Inquisitor craft folding into formation like carrion birds circling meat. The comms chatter with reports of fugitives, insurgents, and one name whispered too softly for bureaucrats to write down. Jedi. You stand in the bay, armor hot under the weight of 2 leashes. One belongs to Vader, who summoned you with the voice of iron law. The other belongs to the Emperor, whose silken command still lingers in your skull like a hook. Come, my hand. They are not instructions. They are competing verdicts, and you are the trial. The junk ring greets you with silence. No alarms, no children's laughter, no bickering scavengers. Only the hum of failing conduits and the smell of scorched oil. Your boots echo in corridors you once ran barefoot. Memories cling to walls like mold. Every door, every handprint, every dent in the bulkhead is a scar you helped write. The Inquisitors move ahead, blades ready, their smiles sharp. They want blood. They want spectacle. They want to show Vader who serves best. You do not trust them. They do not trust you. At the center of the ring, where the scaffolds tangle into a hollow chamber lit by a dying reactor core, you find them, the lost Jedi. Their green blade blooms in the dark like a wound that refuses to close. They stand alone, robes tattered, hair silver in the flickering light. Their faces calm, not defiance, not resignation, but clarity. You shouldn't have come here, they say. The Inquisitors laugh. Red sabers ignite, painting the chamber in murderous light. But you do not move with them. Your blade stays at your side, humming faintly, as if waiting for your decision. The Jedi's eyes find yours. A piercing past the mask. You've come home to betray it, or to remember it. Your throat closes. Vader's command echoes in your skull. Kill them. Prove your loyalty. The Emperor's whisper follows. Take what he fears. Make it yours. The Jedi lifts their saber into guard. Then let this be your trial. The Inquisitors strike first, twin storms of red fury. The Jedi meets them with precision, their blade turning death aside in graceful arcs. Sparks rain, metal screams, the floor cracks under the weight of the duel. You circle the fight, sabers in your hands, waiting. The Force pulls at you. Each strike vibrates through your bones, demanding you choose. Vader's leash burns tight. If you hesitate, you will be unmade. The Emperor coils behind your eyes, patient, promising power if you betray your master. Then the Jedi speaks through the clash of blades, their words carried to you alone. Anakin was not always a monster. The name detonates in you. Your sabers ignite with a scream of red, and you leap into the fray. The battle becomes chaos. 4 blades of red, 1 of green. The Jedi turns, deflects, parries, but every motion costs them ground. The Inquisitors fight with hunger, but no discipline. You fight with fury, your strikes harder, faster, heavier. The Jedi strains under the weight of betrayal, sweat streaking their face, each breath a prayer. But still, they do not yield. You are not him, the Jedi cries, locking blades with you. You are not his leash. You are not his hand. You are still you. Their words drive into the cracks you have tried to seal. Rage surges. Doubt surges harder. The Force inside you trembles, pulled in 2 directions, loyalty to Vader, temptation from the Emperor, and the echo of a voice that says, "You can still choose." You snarl, shoving the Jedi back with both sabers. One Inquisitor lunges, his scarred grin flashing, only to be cut down by a sudden sweep of green. His body falls, smoking. The other curses, pressing harder, desperate to outshine you. The Jedi staggers, their strength fading. But before you can strike, the chamber shudders. The air grows heavier. The temperature drops. The shadows lengthen. And then, he is there. Vader. His presence crushes the chamber like a fist around glass. Red light floods the dark as his saber ignites, drowning yours. The Inquisitor bows. You kneel instinctively, though your heart screams against it. The Jedi straightens, exhausted but unbroken. Vader steps forward, mechanical breath echoing like judgment. "Umbra," he commands. "Finish it." The Emperor's whisper coils in your skull, sweeter than poison. "Strike him instead. Take your place." The Jedi lowers their blade. Their voice is steady, even now. "You already know the truth. He was Anakin. And you," their eyes pierce you, through the mask, through the armor, through the chains. "You are not beyond redemption." Your sabers tremble. The leash burns. The whisper tempts. The choice for the first time is truly yours. Fire does not ask permission. It takes oxygen and returns a sky sharpened to knives. You lift both red blades and bring them down, not on the Jedi's throat, but on the roof. Metal screams. A load-bearing spine parts like wet bone. The chamber's lights blow out in a sudden, thunder-shot night as the dying reactor spits a white tongue of heat. Gravity forgets itself for a blink. The Inquisitor stumbles with a curse, his blade carving a useless scar through air. "Traitor," he spits. But the word loses its balance halfway to your ear. You do not answer. You have no time for words. Your left hand throws a wall of invisible force, a fist the size of the room that slams the Inquisitor into scaffolding hard enough to fold it. Your right hand does what your name promised. Becomes absence, becomes misdirection, becomes an eddy where fate forgets to look. A breath, a choice, a door. "Go," you whisper into the ruin, not sure if you speak aloud. The Jedi hears anyway. The green blade gutters once in acknowledgement and vanishes into smoke, a streak of dawn falling through a maintenance shaft you tore open with the same motion that split the roof. Vader's presence swells, a tide drawn by a black moon. His saber carves a line through the dust, a horizon of red that decides where the world ends. "Umbra," he says, voice a verdict. "Finish it." You turn to face him, mask catching the bloom of his blade. He is close enough for you to feel the cold transmitted by the machine that breathes for him and the hotter cold beneath it, the temperature of power, clean and airless. Behind him the ring breathes hot metal and old hunger. "On it," you say, and you leap, past him. He pivots. You meet his strike with the flat of your blade. The impact is a planet learning a new orbit. Sparks fall like winter. Your second saber kisses the gantry's struts instead of his ribs. The catwalk falls, roaring between you. Smoke pours up in a column. The Inquisitor claws from the wreckage, howling, Troopers spill into the chamber in disciplined waves that break on your misdirected hand. You make the room your accomplice. Vapor blooms. Doors remember to jam. 1,000 bolts that should have flown true fly pretty instead, and pretty is not survival. By the time the smoke thins, the shaft is closed by a slab of your will turned to matter. The green light is gone. You stand very still, blades low, breath measured. The Inquisitor aims his fury at you. Vader's gauntlet stops him like a wall. Useless, Vader says to the smoking hole that used to be a roof. It could be for the Inquisitor. It could be for the ring. It could be for you. You extinguish your blades and drop to one knee. The movement so practiced it becomes a lie you almost believe. They collapse the gantry, lost in the shafts. The most dangerous sentence is the one that is true enough to pass for obedience. He does not look at you. He does not have to. The weight in your skull tightens until you taste metal. Then abruptly, it loosens, as if a hand decided to measure you again later. Purge the ring, he orders. Bread rots quickly. The word is a knife. By your command, you say. You leave the chamber with the Inquisitor's stare peeling your back. Troopers rush past, their boots a drumbeat for an execution you have already decided not to conduct to tempo. In the dark coil of the service corridor, you let your shoulders hit the wall. Your pulse finds the old rhythm of scaffolds, the one you learned when you were small and the air was a coin you could not afford. The recorder hidden in your vambrace is warm as a secret kept long enough to start bleeding. There is still good. You move. The ring burns politely at first. Bulkheads sealed, fires vented, reports filed in triplicate. The Empire prefers its cruelty documented. You teach the vents to forget. You teach the doors to fail open. You teach the cameras the art of blink. Faulty dampers, an officer mutters, as evac lines bend toward safety they were not meant to reach. Someone fix the dampers. You fix nothing. You unfix precisely enough. The child with wire in her braid, another braid now, smaller hands than the ones you buried, catches sight of your shadow in a tunnel mouth. She does not freeze. She does not run. She tilts her head, the same angle you learned from the woman who taught you to hold your breath. You, she whispers. And the word isn't accusation. It's geography. You don't answer. You bend your wrist and send the most treasonous message the ring has ever carried, a pulse on a maintenance channel older than most of the people alive on it. 3 long beats, a pause, 5 short, a longer pause. Starling has flown, nest burns, deliver daylight to the hollow, static answers. Then the station's bones reply with 1,000 small kindnesses, doors that stick for the right people, hoses that find water, hands that find other hands. Fire learns respect. When you reach the docking spine, the squad you brought waits at parade rest. Visors blank, rifles down. They counting survivors without counting survivors. Discipline is an art some men practice until it teaches them to stop being men. Evacuation complete, their sergeant reports, awaiting authorization to vent the rest. You look at him through a faceplate that returns no one's reflection. Authorization denied. We will maintain a live trap. The Jedi may still be aboard. The lie is comfortable like a splint. The sergeant nods. He does not ask why you are bleeding from a cut that was nobody's business to give you. He does not ask why your saber smells like lightning instead of meat. Vader's shuttle lifts from the far bay with the elegant menace of a weapon sheathed too slowly. He has other fires to manage. He leaves the Inquisitor to preen and threaten and promise outcomes he did not earn. You take your men and go the other way. Days become ash in your mouth. Orders arrive with the relief of routine. Audits, seizures, silences. You fulfill them. You leave small doors open. The rebellion, you were told, is a rumor begins to move like weather, not soldiers, errands, exactly as the radio man said. A woman pushing a pram over a bridge that happens to pass a crate to hands that happen to be injured the same way dock hands are injured. A code phrase chalked behind a market stall, 2 arcs and a word that never writes itself. Bread. Engineers who leave miscalibrations like breadcrumbs for ghosts to find. You are that ghost. You adjust the crumbs. You do not eat them. You do not say light. Word spreads faster than ships. A convoy clears a lane that has not been clear since the war began. Because a listening post you dented weeks ago now returns static instead of names. A cantina on the edge of a mining belt discounts water and doubles prices for rumor. You pay both and leave a third thing behind, a calibration key that will make the owner's son's oxygen meter read honest for the first time in his life. You perform miracles that do not want to be called miracles. Umbra, Vader says over comm somewhere between one planet's night and another's smug afternoon. You will proceed to Hadriel Depot. A cell has grown too comfortable. You say, understood, and you point your ship toward comfort to see if it deserves to live. Hadriel is a spine of girders at the edge of nothing, a depot stringing together oxygen, ordnance, rumor. Your scanners read half a battalion where your eyes see only dock hands with tired backs. Comfort is a word people use right before someone takes it. You walk into it like weather. The cell recognizes you by the shape of your silence. They do not say welcome. They say, we don't have time. The leader, thin, shoulders of a man who has learned to make his courage bigger than his body, pulls a cloth from a crate to reveal coils stamped with imperial inventory numbers and, nested inside, loaves of contraband earth bread braided in a pattern you saw once in a Naboo market when you were young without knowing what young meant. We're short a pilot, he says. You any good? I am not here to fly, you say. I am here to subtract problems. Same thing, he says, and laughs a laugh that has learned to sound like breathing. The plan is bad. That is, it is real. Bad plans are how the living force itself remembers it despises certainty. A distraction at the signal mast. A theft in the fuel yard disguised as a refueling. A ship that thinks it belongs to the Empire learning a new name. You give the mast a stutter, it will take hours to diagnose. You teach the fuel yard's gates the habit of opening to a rhythm only your men know. You do not fly. You stand where the plan has to fail if it wants to live and refuse to let it. Troopers arrive late. Inquisitors arrive smelling like their own legend. You decline to be caught in it. Hands! A soldier shouts at a girl with the coil on her shoulder. Down! Your saber is in his rifle before your mind agrees. The bolt scorches the ceiling instead of the child. You learn his rank by weight and drop him without cutting. You learn where his friends kept their fear and give it back. The leader shoves the last crate aboard a hauler that was born to carry ore and will now carry a different definition of worth. Who are you? He asks, panting, eyes wide on the black plates that keep your face from needing to answer questions. Nobody, you say. He believes you and does not. His mouth forms a thank you. You shake your head. Don't waste air on gratitude is written on your stance. He takes the order. The hauler blows its clamps. The mast dies theatrically. The depot's warning lights argue with their own power supply. You raise your hand and make the alarms learn humility. The ship leaves with a belly full of bread and medicine and names that will not be written again by men who earn their oxygen counting other people's. The depot exhales. The fire that began in a ruined ring spreads the way all honest fires spread, by finding what wants to burn and teaching it how. You think you will be allowed to feel something like relief. You are reminded what you are instead. The Inquisitor with the peeled wire smile steps from behind a crate with a guard detail that has learned how to aim without asking permission. He does not look winded. He does not look disappointed. He looks entertained. Busy day. He purrs. Helping, are we? Your saber remains on your belt. Your voice is the only blade you draw. Interrupting, you say. Your men misread a faulty manifest. I corrected it. He steps close enough to see his own face, warped, in your mask. One of the ships left heavy, he says softly. Heavier than ore. I do love a mystery. Love is an inefficient use of oxygen, you answer. So is suspicion. He laughs as if you have told a joke about weather. He wants your eyes, he says, meaning the Emperor, meaning lightning. He wants your spine, he adds, meaning Vader, meaning iron. I want to see which breaks first. You do not move. The depot's wind moves for you. A gull screams in a sky that should not have gulls. Somewhere, courage reloads. The Inquisitor tilts his head. Run along, he says, like a teacher giving a child permission to leave a lesson the child wrote. We'll talk soon. You do run, not away, to the place where orders go to become paper. Mustafar again. The lava smells like vows made by people who don't believe in vows. You kneel in the throne chamber and remember the river under the platform and the 4 lines carved by a hand that didn't want to leave. Report, Vader says. You recite facts and deny adjectives. He listens. The respirator's rhythm changes once, a fraction. He is measuring the room for a word he has not decided to say. The Emperor asked for you, he says at last, plain as a wound. You do not play at ignorance. On Silex, you say. He projected. He will again, Vader answers, and the heat does not dare hiss. When he does, you will be where I can see you. There are traps, and there are tests, and there are fates. This is all 3. Yes, my lord. He turns away. You turn with him. The recorder in your vambrace bumps your wrist like a heartbeat under a bandage. On your way out, a trooper falls into step and peels away without speaking. A covert commute practiced to look accidental. He leaves a data chip on a crate meant to be empty. You do not stop to pick it up. You make your absence bend in the right shape and let the chip find your palm. In a shadow where the lava doesn't quite reach, you slot it into your slate. Grainy footage resolves, the hauler lifting from Hadriel, rebel hands raised as if in prayer around a flight stick. A cargo bay full of loaves braided the way Naboo teaches its children to shape warmth. The camera wobbles. A child waves at it. The leader's voice, thin and unafraid. For those who can't say light yet, bread. The slate's timestamp tells you what your gut already knows. Inquisitor eyes are already turned toward the next errand. A trace. A pursuit, a raid. Your comm flares, iron braided with silk. Umbra, Vader, Stone, Command, Storm. The convoy has been sighted. Intercept and destroy. Come to me, the Emperor. Patience as a blade, delight as restraint. My hand, now, bread, light, leash, choice. You stand in the corridor between one fire and the next. The fortress hums like a held breath. Somewhere far away, a green blade remembers how to be dawn. Somewhere nearer, a child with wire in her braid learns a new way to say your name without sound. You lift your wrist. You look at the two summons. You do not kneel. Not yet. The galaxy splits around you. On one side, iron, the rasp of Vader's command, the leash wound tight through your skull, the Empire's demand for obedience. On the other, silk, the Emperor's whisper, patient and poisonous, promising you a throne carved from your master's shadow. And in between, bread, chalk, laughter, a voice that still echoes in your vambrace. Don't forget who you were. Your ship's cockpit hums like a confessional. The comm bleeds with two summons, Vader's mechanical certainty, the Emperor's velvet blade. Both demand the same thing, your soul, paid in different currencies. For the first time, the leash does not tighten. For the first time, no hand forces your knees to the floor. The choice is yours, and it is unbearable. The recorder in your vambrace stirs, as though sensing the war inside you. A flicker, a cough of static, and the woman's voice blossoms in the cockpit again, raw with hope. If there is any part of the boy who loved the impossible, listen to me. There is still good. There is still a way. The words cut deeper now. You know the boy's name. You know the secret Vader tried to bury in fire and machine. Anakin. The Jedi called him that. The Emperor hissed it like a curse. Vader denied it with silence. But the truth cannot be denied anymore. Anakin Skywalker is not dead. He is chained inside the mask you kneel before. And if he can be broken into obedience, so can you. Unless you choose. The coordinates of the rebel convoy blink on your display, a trail of fugitives who believe bread is as holy as light. They are not soldiers. They are not killers. They are not ready. If you obey Vader, you will slaughter them. If you kneel to the Emperor, you will inherit a throne built on their ashes. Either way, their fire will be smothered before it can burn. You feel the Force coil around the choice. One path leads to chains. The other leads to a key. Round of shadows. Both lead to betrayal. You whisper into the cockpit, your voice almost unrecognizable through the mask. I am more than this. And the galaxy trembles. The jump to the convoy is short. The blue tunnel of hyperspace spits you into a void, alight with chaos. Ties banking hard, rebel freighters scattering like startled birds, turbolasers clawing through darkness. Already the Empire's claws are closing. The Inquisitor's ship prowls ahead, hunting for the kill. Vader's voice cuts into your comm, colder than the void. Umbra, destroy them. Leave no survivors. And then, like a rival star, the Emperor's whisper threads through the static. Strike him instead. End your leash. Be my hand, and you will rule. You tighten your grip on the yoke. The hum of your sabers answers from your belt, red and restless. Both masters wait for you to betray the other. Both believe they own your choice already, but this time, it belongs to you. You cut your engines and dive into the melee. Ties streak past, confused at your vector. You barrel toward the freighter at the convoy's heart. The hauler you freed on Hadriel, still heavy with loaves braided like prayers. Turbolasers rake the dark around it. Its shields flicker, dying. The Inquisitor is there first. His blade-red ship strafes the hauler, teeth bared in laser fire. You hear his laugh through the comms. Bread burns quickly, little shadow. Not this time. You unleash your cannons, not at the freighter, but at the Inquisitor. Green bolts rip across his hull, tearing plating, sending him spiraling into the chaos. His voice cuts off in static. The hauler limps free, engines coughing, but alive. Umbra! Vader's voice snarls, fury scorching even through the mask. Explain! The Emperor laughs in the marrow of your bones. Yes, strike him, become mine, but you are not theirs, not anymore. You ignite both sabers in the cockpit, their red glow painting your armor in fire. I choose neither, you say aloud, to both voices and to yourself. I choose me. Your shuttle slams into the hauler's docking clamps. Magnetic locks bite. You cut through the airlock, step into the freighter's smoke-choked corridors. Wide eyes stare back. Mechanics, refugees, children clutching ration bricks like holy texts. They see the mask, the armor, the shadow, and they flinch, until the girl with wire in her braids steps forward. She does not bow. She does not run. She just says, softly, I knew you weren't one of them. And for the first time, the chain breaks. You raise your sabers. The red blades hiss, bathing the walls in bloodlight, then extinguish, leaving only silence. I am Umbra, you tell them, but not Vader's, not the Emperor's. If the Empire hunts you, it hunts me too. The refugees do not cheer, they do not trust, but their silence shifts, from fear to something sharper, something like belief. Behind you, the void erupts. Vader's shuttle drops from hyperspace, a black wedge against the stars. His presence crushes the battlefield. His voice lashes out cold as death. Umbra, you betray me. Your breath rattles in the mask. The leash still pulls, but for once, you pull back. Not betray, you whisper. Break free. The freighter's engines roar, carrying you and the spark you chose to save into the abyss. Behind, the Empire burns in pursuit. Ahead, rebellion waits with arms not yet strong enough to hold what you bring. Fire trails in your wake, rebellion born not from victory but from refusal. And somewhere deep inside, for the first time, the shadow trembles not with cracks, but with light. Destiny has the sound of thunder, not the thunder of weather, but of war. The rolling concussion of engines, the crackle of laser fire, the scream of hulls tearing apart in the dark. You feel it now, vibrating through the deck of the rebel hauler as the convoy flees into the teeth of the Empire. Behind you the stars boil red with pursuit. TIE squadrons swarm like insects, latching onto the freighters, cutting off escape routes. Star destroyers blot out starlight, their shadows falling like guillotines across the void. And at the heart of it all, a single presence, heavier than any fleet, colder than the vacuum itself. Vader has come for you. His will pierces through the Force like a black spear, locking onto your presence no matter how deep you bury it. Umbra, his voice hisses across the dark. You cannot hide. You cannot choose. But you have already chosen. The refugees cower in the hold, clutching crates of bread and medicine as though they were holy relics. Children huddle together, their eyes wide and too knowing. The girl with wire in her braids sits near the reactor bulkhead, watching you not with fear, but with certainty. You'll fight him, she says. It is not a question. You kneel to her level, your mask reflecting her small, scarred face. I will try. Her gaze doesn't waver. No, you'll win. The words burn in your chest, not because you believe them, but because you want to. The hauler jolts, shields shatter, alarms howl. Through the viewport, a shape eclipses the stars, a dagger of obsidian cutting through the void. Vader's personal shuttle breaks from the destroyer's hangar, arrowing straight for you. The Inquisitor's laughter snarls across open comms. Shadow fights shadow, bread burns, light dies. The crew looks to you. You rise, sabers in your hands. The mask hides your fear, but not the truth. This is no longer about survival. This is about destiny. The shears. Docking clamps shudder as Vader's shuttle strikes. Metal screams. The airlock ruptures. Red light floods the corridor as his blade ignites, casting everything in the hue of judgment. The troopers scatter. The refugees cry out. You stand alone in the hallway as Vader steps through the breach, cloak flowing like smoke, his breath a furnace's rhythm. Umbra, he says, voice a mountain falling. You are nothing without me. Return or die as ash. Your sabers ignite. Twin blades shriek crimson, their glow painting your armor in fury. I am not your hand, you say. I am not your leash. I am me. And then, destiny clashes. The corridor erupts with fire and light. Your blades crash against his, sparks scorching the walls. Each strike is a storm, every movement a battle of more than flesh. He is not merely fighting to kill you, he is fighting to erase your choice. He is stronger. His strikes are heavy, merciless, forged in decades of war. Every parry rattles your bones. Every blow nearly tears your arms from their sockets. He is a furnace of rage, and you are standing inside it. But you are faster, smaller, unpredictable. You spin through the wreckage, twin blades flashing, weaving red arcs like a storm of shadows. You cut conduits, spray sparks, force him into narrow spaces where his strength becomes a prison. The force roars around you both. Objects ripping from the walls, panels buckling, flames hissing as atmosphere vents. Children scream in the hold behind you. You cannot let them die here. Vader senses it. He drives you back toward the bulkhead, pressing until your heels scrape steel. His saber locks yours, the glow blinding, his mask inches from yours. You are weak, he hisses. You will always be weak. Pain sears your muscles. The leash in your skull screams. For a heartbeat you nearly break. And then, a whisper in memory, there is still good, not his good, yours. You roar and twist, breaking the lock, driving your blade against the wall to shower sparks into his mask's lenses. He reels half a step is enough. You slam both sabers down, carving the deck between you. The floor buckles, splitting into fire. For an instant you stand apart, two shadows, two truths, two destinies colliding in a single scar of molten steel. Behind you the hauler's engines scream. The convoy is jumping. If you hold him here, they will escape. If you fail, all this fire dies in vain. You lower your sabers into guard. I am Umbra, you say, voice steady even through the rasp of exhaustion, and my destiny is mine. Vader's blade rises in answer. The corridor shakes under the weight of his fury. The next clash will decide everything. You fall before you are struck, not with the body, your stance is sure, your grip iron, but with the part of you that counted breaths against the shape of a future you finally chose. The hauler's deck thrums under your boots as the hyperdrive spools, the stars smear into white threads, and Vader fills the corridor like a verdict that learned how to walk. Red opens against red. Heat breathes from molten seams you carved into the deck to force the fight narrow. His blade meets yours with the weight of a world remembering gravity. Sparks drive into your mask vents and die there like prayers without air. The walls buckle with the force of it, conduits turning into whips, panels shearing off and spinning slow in the pressure-edged pull of the jump. You cannot choose, his presence says without words, iron rasp counting your refusals. I choose and you are the choosing. You slide under a two-handed cleave meant to split you to harmless symmetry, your sabers crossing to catch the follow-through. Pain runs up your arms into old scaffolding bones. You bait him toward the blowout you carved, an open mouth in the deck where heat licks and machinery shows teeth, and he steps there anyway, unconcerned with the language of traps. The mask tilts a hair. You can feel the machine that breathes for him smile without trying. Umbra, he says, and the name is a chain that forgets it is merely a sound. Yield. You do not answer. You flick your wrist, and every light in the corridor dies. Darkness is your ally. You told yourself that when you accepted your name. In perfectionless night, your sabers become your only witnesses, each arc a sentence, each clash a punctuation you cannot seem to decide. He fights like a map of your future drawn in red ink. Heavy, certain, no roads out. You fight like the wind that gets into a house through a window frame that does not quite fit. Behind you, far down, the hall. You hear small sounds, the refugees pressed against bulkheads, the girl with wire in her braid refusing to let her breath learn panic. She believes you will win because she has never had enough experience with winning to mistrust it. The belief burns. Vader presses. You yield without retreating, a craft he taught you and meant you never to use on him. He pins your lower blade, you wrench free and pay for it with a flare of pain at the elbow. A casing screams as it rips from the wall and flies, and you cut it in half without thinking, because that is what your nerves learned before you learned words. You wanted bread, he says when the darkness lets his voice mean everything. You wanted light. You will have ash. You are not quick enough to stop the next strike. It glances off your shoulder plate and turns half your arm to slow fire. Your knees hit deck because pain is still a physiology you live in, and he is already stepping there, already bringing the blade down. You catch it flat on flat. Both your sabers crossed above your mask. Heat climbs your face like a climb toward a roof fire. Your boots scrabble for traction. Your muscles beg you to be a different animal for a moment. "Get clear!" a voice shouts behind you, someone brave and foolish and owed a future. And then the sound of a bulkhead slamming sucker-punched silence through the corridor as a shield comes down between innocence and the lesson you are about to learn. You exhale. The chamber shudders. The jump yawns open. The pressure equalizes to the idea that the ship is whole even when it is not. Somewhere far aft, somebody smarter than you about engines does something you will not live long enough to read a report about. The jump completes. Starlines snap into individual lights. The hauler tears free of the destroyer's net with the undignified grace of a child yanking a sleeve out of a grip. The convoy spills into real space like a laugh rescued from a drowning. Your breath leaves you in something like an answer. Vader does not look away. "You defied," he says. The Emperor's attention slides against your skull, interested rather than angry. "He will unmake you," the voice murmurs, pleased, "and I will make you again. You do not have room in you for disgust. You have room for one more motion." You reach without moving, and the recorder hidden in your vambrace bumps your wrist like a bird trapped under cloth. You think, there is still good, and your hand opens on reflex. Ridiculous. As if you are offering a thing that can save a room from theology. He takes it, not the recorder, your wrist. The glove closes, and the bones in your forearm register their minutes of service and resign. Your saber falls, and the last light that was yours in this corridor goes with it. He does not drop you. He pulls you closer, past the heat under the blade, past the pride, past the name you chose. Your face almost touches the mouth of the machine. "Anakin," you whisper, "the sin you learned to speak when the monastery showed you that names can be used like doorways. If the mask flinches, it is not for you to see." The deck lurches, fresh gravity, not the hauler. The docking arms of the black shuttle kissing the wounded ship like a spider taking what trembles. Troopers flood the ruined hall in white surf. The Inquisitor catches sight of you limp in the gauntlet and smiles as if he has finally been invited to a par. "Tie he thought you had forgotten to throw." "Spare the cargo," Vader says, and the corridor does not dare mishear him. It is bait that will serve again. He turns the blade off. The red goes. The pain does not. He does not kill you. That is the cruelty. They take you in the clean metal hands of consequence. The refugees watch from behind the sealed bulkhead as a shadow goes where it is told. The girl with wire in her braid presses her palm to the window, the way children do in stories written for mercy. You do not let your eyes find hers. The shuttle lifts. The hauler limps. The convoy, miracle-bitten, engine ugly, believers welded to hull, jumps. You are taken to Mustafar. You are taken down. There are rooms below the rooms you trained in. Rooms that were not built for teaching a blade to sing, but for teaching a voice to shut up. They hang like knots around the fortress's throat. The air is clean, which is to say, it has been sterilized of truth. Lights burn a not quite white that makes skin into evidence. They do not strap you to an altar. They strap you to clarity. You do not scream at first. Not because you are brave, because your body is busy with the work of regretting survival. Vader is present the way mountains are present in paintings of storms, part of the landscape that insists on the lesson. He does not taunt, does not editorialize, does not perform. He watches as parts of you are introduced to absence by people with gloves who never learned your name, because knowing it would make the math more expensive. The Emperor attends in projection, taking notes inside the back of your skull with fingernails made of attention. He approves of some pains and dismisses others with a flick, bored by anything not on his syllabus. "Break him," he says mildly, when your silence threatens to become a hobby, "but do not end him. Tools are dear." At some hour without number, Vader lifts his hand and the room breathes. He steps close enough that the machine fogs the place your breath would if you had the right rhythm. "You will function," he says, the same benediction he gave you when he decided forgiveness was a word for weaker religions. You pull against the straps and your body teaches you the physics of futility. He tilts his mask. "You will deliver names," he says. "You will hunt your friends and return as their proof that hope is expensive." He leaves the recorder on the table beside your head like a coin he intends to pay you with later. The crest of Naboo winks under the light 3 times. once for each possible future, and then goes still. He will not crush it where you can see. He will crush it where you will not. You do not tell him that Anakin heard you. You do not tell him that you heard Anakin. They take your blades. They do not take your name. That is the bleakest mercy. Umbra stays because it makes the work easier when the blade knows its handle. When they unstrap you days or minutes later, you cannot tell. You are lighter by a weight you did not know you were carrying, and heavier with the remainder. You stand because you have not yet learned how to stop. In the debrief vault, the Inquisitor with the wire smile reads from a slate. Hadriel, Castrine, Silex, the ring. He looks up. Very busy, little shadow. He taps the slate with one nail. Here is your penance. 3 roots, 4 names, 1 child. His teeth show. Repurpose. You look at the list and the list looks back, and somewhere a room you left long ago opens a window to let in air no one remembered to ration. You take the slate. Your hands work. Your mouth says, understood, because understanding is a habit you cannot afford to unlearn tonight. Your eyes do not meet the wire smile because eyes are betrayals. You leave the vault into air that pretends it never saw anything. The corridor to your quarters bends around a corner where a maintenance niche offers a shadow that is more than decor. You spill into it and let the fortress continue in a straight line without you for a breath you pretend is a decision. The recorder is where he left it. Your fingers learn how to steal again. It opens to the child's laugh before it opens to the woman's hope. A tiny voice asks for a story about heroes. The woman answers, a little tired, a lot alive. Heroes are the ones who keep choosing even when choosing hurts. You close the recorder and feel the hurt inventory you against what you intend. Back in the throne chamber the next day, Vader stands with the lava-speaking patient ruin behind him. You kneel because some habits are not submission, they are camouflage. He says, rise, and you do. Your rebellion, he says, is over. He is right. Not because you have accepted the chain, because you have learned what to hide your blade inside. You bow. You take the new orders. You turn without trembling. As you cross the threshold, the fortress hums a note only you hear. The sound of a door that has been opened and closed so many times it knows how to sound like a wall. You are falling still, yes, but you are falling sideways, into a shadow wide enough to cover a road. Silence has weight. It is not emptiness. It is the press of all the things you cannot say, stacked atop your chest until breathing feels like confession. In the fortress of Mustafar, silence is a tool, a leash, a verdict. But in you, it has become legacy. They say you fell. The Inquisitors whisper it like a triumph, smirking in their cloaks. The apprentice is broken. The shadow is tamed. Troopers believe it without question. Your armor shines. Your steps are steady. You kneel when commanded. You rise when ordered. You function. But silence is your rebellion. Each mission you carry out now bears your mark, though no report records it. On Ratatak, the rebel cell you were sent to slaughter vanishes before you arrive, tipped off by a glitch in the Imperial comm grid. On Zygeria, slaves slated for repurposing are quietly missing from the transport when it docks. On Danon, a senator who spoke too loudly against the Emperor is found dead, yet his children are smuggled off-world, shielded by a path only you could carve. Your silence saves them. Your silence damns you. For every life you preserve, you erase another trace of yourself. For every whisper you allow to survive, you bury your own voice deeper. You have become the mask so completely that even hope cannot recognize your face. Still, the leash remains. Vader's presence coils through your skull like molten wire, pulling taut whenever doubt brushes your thoughts. His voice, endless, patient, merciless, reminds you, you exist because I permit it. You function because I demand it. And yet, beneath that iron, a fracture hums. Sometimes when he speaks, the word Anakin pulses in your memory like a forbidden candle. The Jedi's eyes return in dream, sorrowful and steadfast. You are not beyond redemption. Even the Emperor's whisper lingers, velvet and suffocating. Kneel, my hand. Kneel, and I will raise you higher. But Yakaid Yang. I'll kneel for neither. You kneel for silence. The galaxy begins to change. The rebellion is no longer a rumor scrawled in chalk, no longer ration bricks disguised as pressure housings. It becomes fleets, convoys, cells daring to speak aloud. Systems burn in its name. Bread becomes light and light becomes fire. You see it wherever you go, sigils carved into walls, songs hummed in workyards, children daring to laugh again. Your silence has helped build this, a legacy invisible, yet undeniable. And still, you wear the mask. One night, deep in the fortress, you descend into the old chamber, the scar where you first saw his fall replayed in shadow. The river of lava still whispers, the platform still bears the grooves of fingers that refuse to let go. You kneel where you once knelt, but this time, not as a servant. You take the recorder from your vambrace. The crest of Naboo winks at you in the firelight. Your thumb hesitates, then presses. The woman's voice blooms once more. If there is any part of the boy who loved the impossible, listen. The child's laugh follows, small and unbroken. Tell me a story about heroes. Your silence answers them both, not with words, but with choice. You do not destroy the recorder. You do not surrender it to Vader. You keep it alive, the way you have kept yourself alive, hidden, unspoken, waiting. The Inquisitor with the wire smile confronts you weeks later. His voice drips with suspicion. You've been very quiet, little shadow. Too quiet. Whispers follow you. Rebels vanish when you arrive. Convoys slip away. He leans close, grins sharp. Tell me, whose side are you on? You do not answer. Your silence is sharper than any blade. He laughs, unnerved despite himself. One day, silence will betray you more loudly than words. He is right, but not yet. In time, you become a myth. To the Empire, Vader's nameless shadow, feared for efficiency. To the rebellion, a rumor of a masked figure who turns aside the blade, who leaves doors unlocked, who saves without speaking. To yourself, a silence deep enough to hide the truth, but not deep enough to kill it. The girl with the wire braid survives. Others too. Their children will tell stories, not of you, never of you, but of a faceless shadow who betrayed the Empire with silence, a ghost who carried bread across fire. And one day, when fire consumes the Emperor, when Vader himself falls beneath the weight of Anakin's forge, aught in name, your silence will still remain, not celebrated, not remembered, but present, in the cracks of history, in the lives spared, in the fire you helped carry forward without ever daring to hold it in your hands. Your legacy is not glory. Your legacy is not victory. Your legacy is silence, and silence, you have learned, can be louder than any scream.